Here we go. No, this ain't it. Hold on, fam. Let's see. Let me see. Yeah, I gotta go to history. What? This is not my fucking history. What are they doing? Oh, that's why, cause this ain't even my goddamn what you call it. Makes sense. Let's go to it. Oh damn, I gotta do all of this. Where did we go wrong? Mm, 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 mm. Where did we go wrong?
Some of them have seen it before and they're still in awe just as much as they were when they saw it in a video or a post. And maybe even more so when they get on site, they get to go inside, they get to feel what the space feels like. You know, it's taller. If the ceiling is taller than normal, so it makes the whole area.
This is the mission that President Trump and I hold in common, and that has inspired a tectonic outpouring of enthusiasm and support from the American people. It's not difficult to understand why. In the U.S., 6 out of every 10 adults have at least one chronic disease, and 4 in 10 have 2 or more. The U.S. has the highest age-standardized cancer incident rate among 204 countries in the world, nearly double the next highest rate. Asthma and autoimmune diseases are far more common in the U.S. than in any other part of the world. Prior to COVID, American life expectancy averaged 7.8 years. That's about 4 years shorter than comparable countries. Autism now affects 1 in every 36 kids, a more than 4-fold increase over past decades. 18% of teens suffer from fatty liver disease. Nearly 38% are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and more than 40% are overweight or obese. These conditions were virtually unheard of when my uncle was president, 1960 to 1963, when I was a 10-year-old boy. The sperm counts and testosterone are down about 50% in American boys, and our girls are reaching puberty 6 years earlier than historical generations. Our only solution to these issues seems to be more and more pharmaceutical interventions that don't seem to be alleviating the problem, and in many cases appear to be worsening it. Over-medication, particularly in children, is a growing issue. More than 3.4 million American children are currently taking medication for ADD and ADHD, and yet numbers continue to rise. President Trump has asked me to reverse the epidemic of chronic disease. The way to do that is to bring HHS to its full potential as the steward of the American healthcare system. That is the mission that I want to share with you. I have a vivid memory of visiting NIH when I was a boy. My mother, a woman who worked for my mother, had a husband who was an NIH scientist. And when I was that age, I wanted to be a scientist. And he would bring me to NIH, to the labs, look at the rats and the guinea pigs and to look through the microscopes. And for me, that was an extraordinary thrill to see scientists who were engaged in this existential search for existential truths and who were working to make our country stronger and to make our people stronger. Those were different times. America was at the apex of its power and prestige, and all the world looked to us for leadership. Mm-hmm. This was particularly true of NIH and CDC and FDA. They provided the gold standard of science and research, trusted the world over. They produced scientific heroes like Bernice Eddy, Sarah Elizabeth Stewart, and Frances Kelsey. Frances Kelsey was, of course, the young FDA scientist who, through her own stubbornness and integrity, saved our country from the scourge of thalidomide and left a wake of grim birth defects and grotesque mutations and deformities across Europe. In 1962, my uncle John F. Kennedy honored Stewart with the President's Award for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service, the government's highest civilian honor. The greatness of NIH was rooted in its unimpeachable integrity. It truly deserved the reputation for conducting science in the public interest.
What's good with
Countries that didn't have their own research institution, for example, the new countries of post-colonial Africa, trusted American science so much, and many of them wrote into their own laws, if the FDA approved it, then it's approved in our country as well. I want the agencies under HHS to earn that level of global trust. And what is the path to public trust? The path to trust is always through transparency. Transparency is the foundation of science, and it is the foundation of democracy. I think it's significant that an overwhelming majority of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence, who were this nation's founding fathers, were also citizen scientists. These included Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, John Adams, James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Rush, a physician, Julian Bartlett, a physician, Matthew Thornton, a physician, and Oliver Wolcott, a physician. Science and democracy were born together during the Enlightenment, and they share the same ideals for openness, for public access, and for transparency. Science and democracy flourish from the free and unimpeded flow of information. No one trusts science that isn't transparent about its research hypothesis, its raw data, or its conflicts of interest. No one trusts a government built on lies, on secrets, on cover-ups, and propaganda. That's why my uncle famously observed that the word secrecy is repugnant to a free and open society. Healthcare policy has been the subject of intense controversy for 20 years. But have you noticed that the controversy is almost entirely about who pays for it?
Shout out to
Republicans
the
and Democrats fight these
Let me know,
ferocious
man, I dropped
battles
this
on
link.
Capitol Hill.
Glad y'all in the
And
building, man.
it's
Good to see you.
always about who to shift the burden of paying for it. And for
Hold on,
me,
let me
I've
crank
said
it up.
before, this is like moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. Our health is getting worse and worse. And when the total costs are over $4 trillion as they are now, there is no good solution, only less bad ones. We need to start asking a very different question. Regardless of who pays, why are we paying so much? Well, which is, by the way, 2 to 3 times what European nations pay for better, for worse health outcomes. Well, corruption and efficiency may be part of it. But the main reason is quite simply that Americans are very, very sick. We are, in fact, the sickest nation on earth with the highest chronic disease burden in the world or in the history of the world. During COVID, we had in this country 16% of the global COVID deaths We only have 4.2% of the world's population. So something we were doing was utterly wrong. And the CDC says that's because we're the sickest people in the world. They say that the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So were they dying from COVID or were they dying from chronic disease? According to some estimates, 90% of healthcare spending today goes toward managing chronic disease. When my uncle was president, it was zero. We didn't even have drugs for chronic disease then. And now it's become a burden that's threatening to sink our country. So my main mission at HHS, in which I hope that you will all join me, is to reverse the chronic disease epidemic in America. How are we going to do that? It isn't by replacing one paradigm with another one by force. I'm not going to come in here and impose my belief over any of yours. Instead, we're going to work together to launch a new era of radical transparency. Only through radical transparency can we provide Americans with genuine informed consent, which is the bedrock and the foundation stone of democracy. Transparency allows diverse parties to establish common ground of mutually trusted information. That's a basic precept of science. Results have to be reproducible. The whole experiment has to be open to scrutiny and replication. It's no secret that many of our institutions of democracy, our democracy, of course, but even of science and medicine, are no longer transparent. As a consequence, they have become inefficient, dysfunctional, or corrupt. They have fallen captive to the profit-making industries. They have stagnated in bureaucratic secrecy and in siloing. They have lost touch with ordinary citizens. But here's the paradox that a lot of crusaders need to understand. Most of the people who work in these institutions and agencies and organizations are competent, ethical, and caring, and idealistic. I think that's especially true at HHS. When I was a boy, I particularly admired the scientists that I saw there because I thought these are the smartest people in the world.
All right, two things. I got to figure out what the fuck is wrong with StreamYard, number one. All right, we definitely got to figure out what the hell is going on with StreamYard. Number two, and that's a good point, right? Hood said that we are definitely not the sickest country. Shouldn't be. And it really depends on how you define sick. We probably got more people on medication probably than anywhere else who have to probably rely on medication daily uh, for probably more than the other countries. But I also think that this is where it kind of goes into the free Luigi. I don't know if y'all been on that. Um, if y'all know who Luigi is, shout out to the Sith Lord. But Luigi is the one who knocked off the UPMC CEO, and after doing what he has done, bro has been able to develop a bit of a cult-like following. All right, real crazy the type of following he has had, and what is really gonna be extreme about it and really funny when we go into this Luigi story. And the reason why is because his story is about the war against the system and how much love and praise he is getting, right, for taking the law into his own hands. But when we speak about these type of moves and things like that on the dark side, people look at it like, hey, yo, uh, um, that's the wrong way of looking at things. That's a bad way of handling stuff. When in actuality, no, it's not a bad way of handling things. Um, if you are continue and the way that people was looking at it was that one person's life doesn't mean more than the thousands that are getting killed by the insurance companies every day. You know what I mean? I think every hour they kill like 6 people by just fucking denying they ass medicine and shit. And UPMC had what the problem was with UPMC was they had the highest denial rate amongst other insurances. So you paying all this time on the insurance when you're not even fucking sick, nothing's wrong with you. And then when something is wrong with you, all that money that you invested into the insurance, it still comes down to them whether or not they're gonna deny or accept the claim that the hospital is finna send. And if they deny that claim, guess what? The doctor finna come to you. Like, hey, if you want to continue this treatment or whatever, you either gonna have to cough up the money, or you know what I mean, you can try to appeal it. Now you go to appeal it, guess what? 180 fucking days. If you lucky. If you lucky. And you gotta think about it's a 180-day process to appeal. You gotta think the timely file limit for you to even be able to do that. Sometimes let's say you don't know that your insurance company, let's say that you don't know that they didn't fucking denied your claim, you know what I mean, the provider's claim, until damn near 2.5, 3 months later when you get a bill. Now you calling around trying to figure out who do you get in contact with. You don't know how long that could take before you get in contact with the right person of who you need to talk to in order to get the bill taken care of. That's a whole nother runaround. So then you go from them running you around forever to find that out. Now let's say you get to a plan like MHMS or something like that, where you got fucking 60 days from the filing date, right? From the EOB, in order for your ass to even fucking make the appeal. Or now it's too late. It's nothing, our hands is tied that we could do. Like, yo, man, the shit is fucked. It's really fucked. But like I said, I ain't gonna get too far into that yet because I want to let Robert Kennedy kind of set the table when it comes down to the healthcare in general and what needs to be done moving forward. I think the silver lining that we definitely gonna see in this whole thing is the Kennedy. You know what I mean? Robert Kennedy, I think, is definitely a silver lining. Do I agree with everything? No. But when I think about the cleaning up of the food, that's just like what he talked about. He didn't just talk about removing the vaccine. He talked about the scheduling of the vaccines that the kids get. There is no reason for a newborn baby to be getting goddamn 20 shots. And 10 of them, 15 of the shots that they trying to give your newborn baby is all done. Is shit that's sexually transmitted. My baby don't need that shit. If my baby catch a goddamn sexually transmitted disease, that's on me. That's my fucking fault. Like I'm moving wrong. Something's wrong. There's no reason for that to happen. That's just not. It ain't that easy. Yeah, you ain't just picking that type of shit up, drinking out of somebody's cup and shit. So I said, man, I want to get it. You know what I mean? We just gonna let him get it to his day. I know they said the bro is
And
so
yet,
low.
they're not receiving much money. They're very low paid compared to people who are using high IQs to acquire things and to acquire status and money.
Fat hood, overly medicated.
That means they must have been motivated by something higher.
And that's another thing too. You're overly medicated, and because they come up with a new fucking disease every day, they get to come up with a new goddamn medication that they can guinea pig your ass with every day. Worst part. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. You said Dick Cheney got Trayvon Martin's heart? I need that. You got that link? I need that link. I gotta figure out what the fuck is wrong with StreamYard, yo. Hold on.
Something more idealistic. And I still
TaxAct knows taxes can be confusing, so we've got experts, live human experts, to talk to if you get stuck. Or if you just, want to shoot the breeze about deductions and dependents and stuff. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Man, are they joking?
Public trust.
I think that's why that shit.
We will make our data and our policy process so transparent that people won't even have to file a FOIA request.
That's what it is.
Another reason why our agencies have lost public trust is that they become too politicized. Well, our health should not be a political issue. As I said to President Trump the other day, there's no such thing as Democratic children or Republican children. These are all of our children, and all of us want to keep them healthy. It should be an issue of science and an issue of basic human compassion. Science gets politicized when power and profit are involved, and power and profit are blind to compassion.
Period.
Reducing the influence of money, therefore, goes hand in hand with depoliticizing HHS.
Period.
I've spoken of science, and now let me speak about compassion. HHS is the home to programs like Medicare and Medicaid. Between them serve over 160 million Americans. The same DOGE technology that has uncovered vast amounts of waste and fraud can be used to better serve our fellow citizens who depend on these programs to make sure that no one is left behind and no one is left out. We will aim to set a standard of courtesy, efficiency, professionalism, and integrity that will make HHS again the envy of the world. Let me say one more thing about politicization, and this is personal. As you know, I've come through a very highly polarized confirmation process. The fog of narrative warfare has made it hard to get a sense of who I am and what I believe and what I represent. A lot of times when I read these articles
they gotta get us off the
characterizing
door.
me, I think to myself, I wouldn't want to work for that guy either.
Gotcha.
So, since we all are here together, I have a request to make from you, my new colleagues. Let's start a relationship by letting go of any preconceptions that you may have about me, and let's start from square one. Let's establish a mutual intention to work toward what we all care about, the health of the American people. In return, I want to make a promise to all of you. It's also about preconceptions. I'll start by acknowledging that throughout my career, I've asked a lot of difficult questions, and I've come to a lot of unpopular conclusions. I'm going to keep asking those kind of questions. What I promise to you now is to hold my preconceived answers lightly. I promise to be willing to be wrong. I promise to listen to all the stakeholders, all the parties to the conversation, including the ones, especially the ones with whom I've disagreed in the past. I promise to keep an open mind toward every possibility and every contingency. I hope you will all join me in this commitment because the health of our people is a lot more important than being right or being vindicated. We can start right now. Last Thursday, President Trump signed an executive order to establish the MAHA Commission to study what has caused the precipitous decline in American health over the past 2 generations. So we will convene representatives of all viewpoints to study the causes for the drastic rise in chronic disease. Some of the possible factors we will investigate were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. The childhood vaccine schedule, electromagnetic radiation, glyphosate, other pesticides, ultra-processed foods, artificial food additives, SSRI and other psychiatric drugs, PFAs, PFOAs, microplastics. Nothing is going to be off limits. Whatever belief or suspicion I have expressed in the past, I'm willing to subject them all to the scrutiny of unbiased science. That is going to be our template, unbiased science. That's something that will make us all proud of this agency and of our role in restoring American health. Let's commission research that will satisfy all the stakeholders once and for all. Let's use protocols that we all agree on in advance and not alter the outcomes of studies when they're halfway through and that they look inconvenient. Let's all depoliticize these issues and reestablish a common ground for action and renew the search for existential truth with no political impediments and no preconceptions. Finally, I want to ask you to think about an even larger challenge to this agency. If we're really going to end the chronic disease epidemic, we need to recognize the connection between the physical decrepitude that now beleaguers our citizenry and the pervasive spiritual malaise that has left so many young people feeling alienated, dispossessed, disconnected, purposeless, and hopeless. Spiritual and physical maladies thrive on one another. They feed on one another. Our overall wellness must begin with a spiritual question. How do we relate to ourselves, to each other, to our communities, and to the planet? Vested interests and malignant political actors profit and flourish when we are atomized and fragmented, and uncertain when we can be easily propagandized, when we live in fear and helplessness and victimization. These forces prefer to have us in terror and anxiety, which disable our capacity for critical thinking and make us more compliant and more credulous. They want us hiding from ourselves to avoid our own shadows and dulling our pain and loneliness through sedation and distraction. Yet inside of us, we know that love and self-knowledge are the only true paths to good health. Here at HHS, we need to take on the task of guiding our country and the world to question, towards skepticism, towards engagement, to discover our own paths to living our fullest lives, unleashing the potential in every one of us to make good personal choices that allow us to nourish, to heal, and to develop ourselves. Only this path will make us effective citizens in a democracy. This is decidedly the American identity that we want for our children and their children. Through our own example of dedication and integrity, we can inspire our country on the mission toward well-being and toward achieving our historic mission as an exemplary nation. The goals that I have for HHS, the goals of transparency, of informed choice, of integrity, of efficiency, are possible only with your help. This task before us is historic, to reverse a trend of worsening health that goes back 60 years. And I know that we can do it. I know a higher standard of health is possible. I know that because I remember a time that our country was the healthiest and most robust country on earth. With your help and commitment, we can go back to that time. We can have that again. Now let's get to work, and thank you all very much.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for minding the agency during my confirmation process. I'm very, very happy to be here today. I'm proud that President Trump has appointed me to the position of trust.
So yeah, I think you definitely onto something with that, and I'm glad this started over because we came in at the very end. It was some key things I did want to go over. I don't know though. Might tap out because with this one I can't rewind and move it. So we'll see. Um, but in general, that's one of the things I talked about in going to like the emergency room. You know what I mean? In general, um, I think that should be a connection that we understand. It's big business, and you know, people with money a lot of times. Just think about this, right? If I've been somebody that's donated millions of dollars to your hospital and I need a lung or a heart, you think I'm gonna have to wait for that shit? Think about it like just as simple as that, right? These people, that's a lot of times you see them showing up with the big old check. Here, I'm investing that. They invested in if they need fucking anything at any given time. And guess how they gonna know? Because your shit finna go into their system. Oh, they got the type. Oh, that's the type of blood. That's the blood type you need. Oh, see, I don't. To me, I feel like the places you go to get checked out should be your primary care physician, for the simple reason that is somebody that you can actually develop a relationship with. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say, like, if you have a family doctor, right? 9 times out of 10, your family doctor has been seeing your mama's mama and your grandpa, and then you know what I mean. They seen your uncles and all of that, and now you come along, and now they seeing you. You know what I mean? That's a different relationship to somebody who's like in there and hundreds of people, you know what I mean, maybe thousands of people might come in on any given day with all kind of different issues, some telling the truth, some lying, some trying to get over, some people got covered, some people like all kind of shit is going on, and these people are just on a shift, in and out, in and out. There's no real relationship being built. I think that, to me, you kind of putting yourself in a bit of a pickle. You know what I mean? And and I think it just, to be honest, I just think it makes it easy. So I don't care how healthy you is. You know what I mean? If your shit is rare and it line up with somebody that's been goddamn that done put that and invested millions into this building, guess what? I mean, you gonna be sick today. You gonna be sick conveniently. Feeling fine. Like, damn, I feel fine. No, you're not. You're not fine. Somebody needs something that you got, buddy. And so, and like I say that, just be mindful of that shit. You got issue, go see your primary care. You know what I mean? Somebody that you can develop a relationship with. You know what I mean? Over time, not just somebody who just trying to get you in and out of the fucking door. You know what I mean? Like, here we go. It's gonna be to me a little bit of a different relationship, and to me, I look at that as a factory. You know what I mean? For what they need, for profit. You know what I mean? Not only for just profit, keeping people in debt, but also when they need something from one of the people that come in and they've ran your blood and they, you know what I mean, tested all of this and found out, oh, okay, you're a match with. Hey, just saying. Like, I guarantee that Cheney was probably the first one to get the call. Yo, we got a match in here. And you fuck who name was on that. You know what I mean? Hey, let me see. Let me see here.
To carry out his agenda to make America healthy again. This is the mission that President Trump and I hold in common, and that has inspired a tectonic outpouring of enthusiasm and support from the American people. It's not difficult to understand why. In the U.S., 6 out of every 10 adults have at least one chronic disease and 4 in 10 have 2 or more. The U.S. has the highest age-standardized cancer incident rate among 204 countries in the world, nearly double the next highest rate. Asthma and autoimmune diseases are far more common in the U.S. than in any other part of the world. Prior to COVID, American life expectancy averaged 7.8 years. That's about 4 years shorter than comparable countries. Autism now affects 1 in every 36 kids, a more than 4-fold increase over past decades. 18% of teens suffer from fatty liver disease. Nearly 38% are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and more than 40% are overweight or obese. These conditions were virtually unheard of when my uncle was president, 1960 to 1963, when I was a 10-year-old boy. The sperm counts and testosterone are down about 50% in American boys, and our girls are reaching puberty 6 years earlier than historical generations. Our only solution to these issues seems to be more and more pharmaceutical interventions that don't seem to be alleviating the problem, and in many cases appear to be worsening it. Over-medication, particularly in children, is a growing issue. More than 3.4 million American children are currently taking medication for ADD and ADHD, and yet the numbers continue to rise.
That's crazy.
President Trump has asked me to reverse the epidemic of chronic disease. The way to do that is to bring HHS to its full potential as the steward of the American healthcare system. That is the mission that I want to share with you. I have a vivid memory of visiting NIH when I was a boy. My mother, a woman who worked for my mother, had a husband who was an NIH scientist. And when I was that age, I wanted to be a scientist. And he would bring me to NIH, to the labs, to look at the rats and the guinea pigs, and to look through the microscopes. And for me, that was an extraordinary thrill to see scientists who were engaged in this existential search for existential truths, and who were working to make our country stronger and to make our people stronger. Those were different times. America was at the apex of its power and prestige, and all the world looked to us for leadership. This was particularly true of NIH and CDC and FDA. They provided the gold standard of science and research, trusted the world over. People who work in these institutions and agencies and organizations.
Oh, yeah, we can
people,
go back now.
7.8 years, that's about 4 years shorter than comparable countries. Autism now affects 1 in every 36 kids, a more than 4-fold increase over past decades. 18% of teens suffer from fatty liver disease. Nearly 38% are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and more than 40% are overweight or obese. These conditions were virtually unheard of when my uncle was president, 1960 to 1963, when I was a 10-year-old boy. The sperm counts and testosterone are down about 50% in American boys, and our girls are reaching puberty 6 years earlier than historical generations. Our only solution to these issues seems to be more and more pharmaceutical intervention.
Boom. I just wanted to get into that. All right. So that is definitely an issue. Let me run it over here real quick. Boom. Let's see what we got. Uh-oh. Wait a minute.
Doge dividend checks that would be 20% back to taxpayers, 20% to pay down the debt. 60% is left. Who gets that?
When you achieve savings, you can either return it to taxpayers, you can return it to our debtors, or it can be cycled into next year's budget, and then it just lowers the overall baseline for next year. This is all going to be worked on through the reconciliation process with Congress that's going underway right now.
The White House breaking down how government savings will be used. Now, Doge is proposing that a percentage should go straight to Americans' pockets. And James Fishback is a Doge advisor. He came up with this idea. That escalated quickly, James. So here was Elon.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you just like that, bro. This is what I be meaning by making shit simple. They don't make it hard, yo. Hold on, can y'all hear me? Hell no. Can y'all hear me now? Yo, can y'all hear me now? Get a mic check. Oh yeah, I'm tripping. Let me see. Yeah, y'all can hear me. So this is what I be meaning by making it just simple. You know what I mean? Making it simple. People aren't that like people aren't that smart, yo. You just make it simple. Yesterday, gas was $1.39. I was in charge yesterday. Today they've been in charge, and it's at $2.80. Don't you miss when gas was $1.39? Most people gonna say, "Well, yeah." Well, let's go back to that. Well, yeah. What do they do right here? Hey, we done found all of this money. Whoop the whoop. First thing we need to do is send it back to the people. Now, why would they put that out there? That's strategic. That's strategic. So now, if you think that Doge at this point won't get support after they just said, "Hey, we done found this extra money. 20% of it need to go right into the taxpayers' pockets. Send them a check." Do you really think at this point now you gonna argue against this shit? Like, whoa. So I don't know. They ain't just talking about finding money that's stolen. They say, "Hey, that shit coming back to the people who've been paying taxes." That changes the argument and how you view it. But that's what I mean by making it simple. They make sure they threw that out there first. Hey, we found this money, 20% going to y'all. Now you gonna back off on how you feel about them combing through the goddamn through the economy. Now you're a little bit cooler about that shit. Hey, well, niggas, hopefully they find some more money. You know how many people just said that in their head? Well, shit, Elon doing something right. Hopefully that they can find more money missing. Shit, that they been stealing. Figure this shit out. They just got the approval of probably about 90% of people right now. Like, for real. If you heard that right there, nigga, that wasn't enough to sell you. Hey, well, I'm gonna get out of Elon. I was skeptical. I'm still skeptical. Like, how the fuck is this nigga a whole foreigner with a whole position? Bro, then created a whole position in the United States government. Y'all niggas don't find that shit odd. You talk about globalism, and this is why I be saying my people don't be paying no fucking attention. That you're living in that time period. And people talking, the other side is supposed to be the globalists, right? Right? And at the other side, that's supposed to be the globalists. Hmm. Wasn't it Obama with the globalist agenda? Well, who the fuck ever had a foreigner set up a whole government agency inside of the government? Who did that? Combing through how the government is spending their money. Nigga, that shit that don't sound odd to y'all? Weird, a little bit off. But guess what? After they just announced this, don't nobody give a fuck no more. And I'm gonna tell you, people will remember this. This is the type of shit people remember. You do shit like this. This is the type of shit people remember. It sticks in their mind moving forward. He's setting
Elon
himself
Musk
up,
yesterday talking to Hannity about this. Watch.
The overall goal is to try to get $1 trillion out of the deficit. And if the deficit is not brought under control, America.
Boom. Look at this. Who is this nigga? What? United States American, y'all know with an accent like that. It sound like goddamn it sound like Paul Revere. The British are coming. The British are coming. This is where we at. It looks like globalism to me. And he ain't got an agency just in there doing anything. Like, oh, we're in charge of the minorities or the immigrant population. No, this nigga is combing through the American economy and how the government has been spending their money. And he from a whole nother fucking country. Wow. But let's continue.
America will go bankrupt. The massive waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on, which is leading to a $2 trillion a year deficit. That's what the president was handed on Jan 20th, a $2 trillion deficit. It's insane.
James, sorry, that was on Tuesday, not last night. But the sentiment continues. And a question based on even on what Stephen Miller was just explaining to Peter Doocy yesterday, the $55 billion in savings that Doge has found so far, has that money then been transferred back to the Treasury, or is it still at those agencies waiting some sort of assignment from either the president or actually from Congress?
Well, it's somewhere in the ether, Dana, but I think the more important question is that where is this money going to go when we end up saving it when Doge is all said and done? President Trump is off to a smashing start. What an incredible first month. Now it's time to look at the Doge savings, as our proposal calls out, and send 20% of that right back to the hardworking Americans who sent it to D.C. in the first place, Dana. They didn't send it to Washington, D.C. for it to be spent on a rocky Sesame Street or on a transgender opera in Colombia. They sent it for our roads, our bridges, our health care, and our education. That clearly has been lacking. So guess what? Taxpayers are overdue for restitution. They need a refund. And I'm proud that President Trump supports our proposal.
So would, in your idea, and maybe it's not fully fleshed out yet, but would the dividend checks go to people, like all taxpayers, or just to people making a certain amount of money?
It's a great question. So the plan, everyone can read it at mydogedividend.com. The plan is very simple, Dana. We think Doge will save $2 trillion in total. You take 20% of that, that's $400 billion. You divide that by the number of American households that will pay federal income tax this year. That's 79 million. That gets you $5,000 to every American tax-paying household next summer. It'll have President Trump's signature on it, because without him, without his leadership...
That's a body. I'm sorry. If there has never been a body, that is a body right there. You just hear that math. And look, and this is what I mean. That's the beginning of the math they just hit you with. And you talking about almost $5,000 per taxpayer. Right? Almost $5,000 per taxpayer. Hold on, I got a call. I'm gonna let it play out. I'm gonna be right back.
This would not be possible.
Okay, the New York Times asked this, a Doge dividend. President Trump floated giving taxpayers a piece of any savings that Elon Musk's cost-cutting generates, which could reignite inflation. And I'm no AI expert, but I just checked on Grok. I just asked a question. Would giving these checks possibly lead to more inflation? And Grok says yes. What do you say?
I say no, and here's why, Dana. The first reason is that our economy is in much better shape the last time stimulus checks were indiscriminately sent out by President Biden. We had a massive labor shortage, supply chain dislocations, and they were sent out to everybody, not just taxpayers. The second reason is that this money is coming from direct savings. So remember, for every $5 that Doge saves, $1 goes back to hardworking taxpayers. And a poll from 2019, CNBC found that 70% of Americans would use this type of check to pay down debt, which is the opposite of inflationary. It's deflationary. So this is a good policy. So it's good economics.
That's going to be my last question. Do you think that if somebody does ultimately get this check, if they have credit card debt, they should use that extra money that they found, the savings, the money they weren't expecting to get back, and pay down their own debt.
Absolutely. Just like
So then
D.C. should get its house in order.
the same?
The government should do the same, which is why this proposal calls for the rest of the money, the other 80%, to narrow the deficit, Dana, and to pay down our national debt. But American taxpayers who have worked hard, they need a break. They need restitution. The biggest part, Dana, though, is we incentivize them to report waste, fraud, and abuse. As President Trump said on Air Force One, report waste, fraud, and abuse, Dana, because guess what? The more Doge saves, the bigger their Doge dividend check is.
Stephen Miller breaking down the expected plan to distribute the funds that have been clawed back by Doge, or at least some of them, as those Doge dollars may soon be headed for your bank account. President Trump floating a plan that would use some of the department's savings to help pay down America's debt and have more go directly to the taxpayers. Let's bring in our panel. Former Biden White House Director of Message Planning, Megan Hayes, and GOPAC Chairman David Avello. So here's what President Trump said about the idea of a Doge dividend on Air Force One. Listen here.
I love it, a 20% dividend, so to speak, for the money that we're saving by going after the waste and fraud and abuse and all of the other things that are happening. We're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back debt.
40%. Don't know where the other 60 goes, but as Stephen Miller was mentioning a moment ago, the three things you can do: give it back to people, use it to pay down the debt, or put it back into the general fund. Where do you think, Megan, it should go?
I mean, I think if the whole purpose of Doge is to cut the deficit, it should go to the deficit. I think that, one, I think they're going to need to focus on their accounting. One time they said $8 billion, and it ends up being less than $8 million that was actually cut for Doge. Also, we should look back to the Bush checks, or the Bush checks that came out, which took $100 billion to cover for people to get $300 and $600 per household. So there's a lot of money to give people money back that should be going to pay down the deficit if Trump is serious about balancing our budget.
I did a calculation yesterday that if you took the $55 billion that they've clawed back so far and you distributed it among every American, it'd be about $167 per person. To a lot of people, that's real money. But he's saying only 20%. So.
Well, but think about how many guitars you could buy, John, and have jam sessions on X in the afternoons. I mean, what we're really talking about is who should be spending this money. Should we be allowing Americans to invest it or spend it to help pay for everyday living and bring inflationary costs down? Or should we allow government and have it be the priority spenders? And what the Trump administration is saying is, let's give it back to Americans. Now, here's the key to all of this. It is also, are we going to also make sure tax increases don't come because we don't continue the tax cuts that happened in the first Trump administration? And if Congress doesn't keep those tax cuts going, every American's going to see a tax increase.
You know, when it comes to guitars, I'm like Phil Graham with guns. I got more than I need, but not as many as I want. Want to talk about the plane crashes that have been happening here and in Toronto, because Democrats are pointing the finger of blame at President Trump. Eric Swalwell talking about FAA cuts, saying this to Fox News Digital. Trump is president. President Trump is in charge of air safety. All crashes are Trump's fault, I guess, including the one in a different country. But here's what a guy who actually runs an airline said about the FAA cuts. Listen to Ed Bastian from Delta Airlines here.
After looking at all these mishaps, a lot of people are very nervous. Do these cuts affect you?
The cuts do not affect us, Gail. I understand that the cuts at this time are something that are raising questions, but the reality is there's over 50,000 people that work at the FAA, and the cuts, I understand, were 300 people, and they were in non-critical safety functions.
He runs an airline. One of his aircraft crashed in Toronto the other day. When it comes to this type of criticism, should the Dems just park it?
I just think they need to be really careful with their rhetoric. I think this is really breathless to be saying this. I don't think you can blame a plane crash on the president, whether or not he's making cuts at the FAA or not, and whether those cuts are justified or not, or they're different conversations. This is where I think Democrats need to be very careful, and I do not think you should be sowing fear into people who fly. It is a very safe way to travel, and this is one of those times where where this will hit Americans, and they need to understand that their government is on the side of safety, and Democrats are not doing that by fear-mongering.
So Swalwell, who apparently throws around rhetoric without the benefit of fact-checking first, said that there's been more aircraft incidents in Trump's first month than there has been in any other presidency. Sean Duffy put this out on X. He says there's growing media narrative that there are more airplane crashes now in Trump's presidency than under Biden. This is false. Here are the facts. In Biden's first month, there were 57 aviation incidents in the U.S. compared to 35 under Trump. I mean, it's just such talk borders on irresponsible.
It's certainly they don't follow the counsel as if you have nothing good to say nothing at all. Right? They only have bad things. They only try to make up bad things. And there is no message coming, a positive message to come out of the Democratic Party right now. So they must continue the rhetoric that they are doing, which is unhelpful to them and ultimately helpful to Trump, because people look at this and say, well, that's silly. Of course the president's not responsible for an air crash that happens in Canada.
Yeah. Time, let's bring in the media panel. Walkaway spokesperson Natalie Beisner and American Values PAC spokeswoman Caitlin Sinclair. Thank you both for coming on. Natalie, to you first. Former Democratic advisor Dan Turrentine said this. I think he gets it. Watch.
We're failing the common sense test. Rather than saying, hey, some of what they're finding, anybody in the right mind would say we should end it. Instead, we scream about everything. And so when we find stuff that, in our opinion, probably is worthy of a discussion, the average voter says, forget it. All you do is scream no, and they're crazy.
So what he's saying is this just crying wolf again and again. Everything Trump says, they say it's terrible. They're crying wolf. And then when there may be something they've got a point on, nobody believes them.
Yeah, it would be a much better look for the Democrats to actually admit that maybe there is some bloat to cut. Maybe there is some waste to cut. What J.D. Vance was saying today, that we were paying for Afghani women to have modern art lessons in toilets. You know, I think that Democrats should be able to admit maybe we don't actually need that. It would be much more sensible for the Democrats to just be honest about this, especially because they say they're for the middle class and the working class. Come on.
Yeah.
Donald Trump announces the External Revenue Service, and his goal is very simple. His goal is to abolish the Internal Revenue Service and let all the outsiders pay. I mean, this is someone who is focused on America. Let's drive down our waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what Donald Trump wants to do. Balance our budget and cut our taxes.
We're hearing a lot about those potential tax cuts and what Congress is going to have to deal with. We're also hearing from the White House about what they want to do with the savings that these cost-cutting commissions have been working to find. President Trump even telling reporters he likes the idea of something of a dividend, something to give money back to Americans. But guys, this is still very much in the early stages, kind of just that trial balloon out there, but it'll certainly get a lot of discussion. Brian, Ainsley, and Lawrence?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue with cutting 6,000 people from the IRS.
No.
Good afternoon, Martha. And if President Trump has proof from his Doge guys that there is widespread Social Security fraud, that means that there is a widespread federal financial crime happening. And so what do you do if you know that there's a crime happening? You report it. That is just what the president did a little while ago, directly to the Attorney General.
We have one person at 360, which is strange because the country is 250. So it's been there 110 years older than the country. Here, Pam, you better take a look at this.
I think it's smart to say that if you gave people $5,000 today, that most people would, as they said, pay off their debt. It's just plain and simple. And so it ain't like they just found money. They found our money, right? You ain't just find, like, that's like somebody coming to your house saying they found money. They discovered that, yeah, that's our money in the first place. You, as a taxpayer, which is why they saying, okay, so you put 20% back in, you get the 5, boom. Does that make a big effect? That has a huge effect on how we look moving forward. You know what I mean? That changes your tomorrow. And like I said, that's something that will be remembered forever.
That's much better for you than for me. Now the question is, are they getting paid? Because somebody maybe is getting paid. Yeah, I have a feeling you were. I said, what a convenient thing. This is so nice.
for his part, Elon Musk is literally laughing off complaints from liberals that he's got bad intentions with data at the Treasury and Social Security departments.
I mean, listen, like if I steal some Social Security, I can finally buy nice things.
There was a very awkward moment here at the White House today. The president told the Democratic Governor Janet Mills of Maine no more federal funding for Maine if they don't comply with the new executive order on banning men from women's sports.
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law.
See you in court.
Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
That is very unusual here at the White House, not what we are used to seeing when governors are invited guests of the president. And there's a lot of lawsuits flying around here. In fact, at that very same luncheon, the Attorney General Pam Bondi was seated at a table with the New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who she just sued.
Yeah.
You may think that in a
So we got that going. Right. We definitely got that going. Let's see what Bernie has to say.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from Vermont.
Thank you. We live in difficult times, in times where people throughout our country are experiencing a great deal of anxiety for a number of reasons. And in the midst of all of that, it is important that we not forget what is taking place not only in Ukraine, but back home here in the United States. And back home, right now, tens of millions of Americans are struggling economically to keep their heads above water. 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 85 million are uninsured or underinsured. And we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major nation on earth. And as someone who has visited senior centers throughout the state of Vermont and has spoken to seniors throughout our country, I can tell you that there is a significant level of fear and anxiety among the older people in this country with regard to what's happening right here in D.C. When we have a president of the United States and Republicans who are talking about massive cuts to Medicaid, let's understand, and seniors do understand, that we are not just talking about throwing millions of kids off the health care that they have at a time when we are the only major country on earth not to provide health care to all people, not just kids off of health care. We're talking about massive cuts to community health centers, which receive over 40% of their funding from Medicaid, and where millions of seniors go to get the primary care they need. And at a time when we already have
And I keep telling y'all, like, every day, less and less people are already accepting that accepting Medicaid. Less and less provided. We moving in a time, and it's gonna be tough. And it's crazy because the way people try to break it down as well, you don't get to just spend your whole life fucking up your health and then we have to pay for it. Like, is that what you think? Like, and this is like how people would try to justify why it's okay to not take care of the elderly, not take care of the children, and really in general, not take care of everybody. I mean, it's only a matter of time before if you are around a bunch of sick people before you get fucking sick. I mean, that's just common sense. So I think I definitely think that's been a big issue. Uh, attacking, not just attacking, but the private, like trying to privatize health and wellness. You know what I mean? It's just a horrible combination. And I just want to continue to get into this a little bit, and then we're gonna get into Luigi, right? And the whole Free Luigi campaign.
A major crisis in nursing home availability. Let us understand that Medicaid provides funding for 2 out of every 3 seniors who live in nursing homes. In other words, massive cuts to Medicaid would be a disaster for senior citizens throughout this country. But it is not just Medicaid cuts that worry our seniors. Today, quite unbelievably, and we don't talk about this anywhere near enough, 25% of people in our country who are 65 years of age or older are trying to survive on incomes of $15,000 a year or less. I myself do not know how or less on incomes age or older are trying country anywhere near enough.
Let's get these numbers.
25% of people in our country who are 65 years of age or older are trying to survive on incomes of $15,000 a year or less.
It's fucked.
I myself do not know how anybody.
And I'm gonna tell you, man, what he's talking about is, and where it even gets worse. Things like them getting like, let's just say that they gave $5,000 to everybody, right? Those people who are living on $15,000 or less a year, guess what would happen if they received that $5,000 check? They'd fucking take that shit out of what they was supposed to be getting in the first place. They find a way to like cut their check or something. Like, yo, what the hell are y'all doing? 25% of people 65 and up are trying to survive off of $15,000 or less. Yeah, that's fucking sick, yo. That's sick. We ain't even in this time period where, and it's crazy where that's even still an option. Do you make 20,000 to, you know what I mean, 15 to $20,000 a year, whatever the gap was? That can't even fucking be an option in 2025. That can't even be an option in 2025. Making fucking less than 20,000 a year. And I mean, given that a lot of these people that he talking about are people who already fucking earned this shit. They paid their goddamn dues. They paid into their Social Security the way they were supposed to. And the only thing that you can do, you don't want to fucking give them their medication. You don't want to provide a place for them to go to get checked up and checked on. You don't want to pay for when they get checked up and checked on or any of their problems. Like, what the fuck are they paying? Did they use their time paying Social Security for it? To get 65 plus and get bent over at an age they can't do shit? Like, y'all, man, these folks is fucking sick, man.
Let alone a senior with health care needs, can survive on $15,000 a year. But that is what 25% of our seniors are trying to do.
And just think about that. You talking about a senior less than $15,000 a year. How much exactly do you think of that is going on to their fucking medication? Like, yo, man, these people, bro. Like I said, man, we finna get into the Free Luigi in just a second. Let me let Bernie cook, though, man. Y'all gotta feel the burn for a second. Feel the burn.
Mr. President, this issue of so many seniors struggling to get by, struggling to heat their homes, struggling to buy the food or the prescription drugs they need, this is an issue we must address. And it is a crisis that is unacceptable in the richest country in the history of the world. And that is why, Mr. President, I am proud to tell you that within the next several weeks, I, along with a number of co-sponsors, will be introducing legislation that expands Social Security benefits and extends the solvency of Social Security for decades.
Today's actually a really exciting day because we got to unfold one of these units right in front of a crowd of people.
You know, we're hearing a lot of talk about cutting Social Security. We should not be talking about cutting Social Security. We must be talking about...
Like, think about that. How the fuck you gonna cut something I've been paying into? Nigga, you don't make me pay into some shit for years, for goddamn 40 years, 50 years, and then tell me you cutting it. No, nigga. I wouldn't have paid into that. That's crazy. Happening to work for insurance. It's almost ridiculous. We the only people who think it's okay not to have universal health care. We can make any excuse we want to. But like I said, the further we go along in this thing, socialism's starting to look smarter and smarter to you dumbasses. Every day. But hey, don't come crying to Bernie now, niggas. That's all I gotta say. Y'all made y'all choice 12 years ago. Now Bernie get to cook y'all. Now you gonna feel the burn.
Expanding Social Security benefits. And the legislation that I will introduce would do just that. It would expand Social Security benefits by $2,400 a year, and it would not raise taxes by 1 penny on the bottom 93% of Americans, those who make less than $250,000 a year. And how do we do that? By lifting the cap and applying the Social Security payroll tax on all income above $250,000. Unbelievably, under current law.
Now, how the fuck do you disagree with that shit? Think about that. How do you disagree with that? We're not gonna raise the taxes by 1 penny when doing this on anybody making $250 or less. But those that are making the $250 or less, they're gonna have to put more into the fucking Social Security. In other words, guess what? Nigga, you need to put some sort of fucking contribution. That's just like how if you putting into your 401k, your company will probably match you like up to like 6 or 7%, right? Right? They'll match up to like 6 or 7% what you putting into your 401k. That should be the same fucking thing for your Social Security and shit. There is no goddamn reason you putting in sweat equity to somebody for them 40 years. And then when you get done, you're making less than 15,000, and then majority of that is going to your fucking medicine and doctor's visits and shit. And the reason why your ass is sick and gotta go to the fucking doctor and need the medicine is because you didn't goddamn fucked your back up giving it to them for 40, 50 years for him to make over 250,000. Like, yo, that shit is crazy. But people will argue against this shit, though.
A billionaire pays the same amount of money into Social Security as someone who makes $176,000 a year.
How fucking smart is that? How does that help the economy? If a billionaire is paying the same amount in the Social Security as somebody who makes $175,000, how the fuck is that fair? No, nigga, you gotta pay your weight. You went up, now your pay gotta go up. Bro, it's just simple as that. Anytime you get overtime or you make extra money, what happened to your taxes? They tax the fuck out of you, don't they? You damn near wish you didn't make that extra $200-300. Make an extra $200-300 on your check and see what that shit look like. You know, tax the fuck out your ass. Meanwhile, as long as you start hitting the millions and the billions, you ain't gotta worry about that shit no more. And your taxes, and that be motherfuckers. Well, you just gotta hit the billion, nigga. Kill yourself in the name of the Most High, nigga. Let me say that. Just to clear it up. May the Most High, goddamn, take your breath. I don't wish that on nobody. Put that on the Most High. It might go take your goddamn breath. Sick of these people, man. Like, it's crazy.
Elon Musk worth $400 billion.
And then it's crazy because the people who be arguing that shit for this shit is people who ain't making nowhere near that shit. And ain't gonna be making nowhere near that shit. Like, bro, you tripping. As your shit go up, your taxes supposed to go up. That's just natural. We not capping that shit, yo. You just tripping. On the Shabbat, my fault, y'all. Shabbat shalom.
Pays the same amount into Social Security as somebody who makes $176,000. That is because under Social Security, there is an absurd cap on taxable income. If we lifted that cap and made sure that millionaires and billionaires paid the same percentage of their income into Social Security as the working class of this country, we could extend the life of Social Security for generations to come and lift millions of seniors out of poverty. Further, Mr. President, when we talk about the needs of senior citizens in this country, I want to mention that I will also be introducing legislation.
And just think about that. And nobody's asking them to pay all of this big. No, nigga. You just need to pay the same percentage I'm paying in the Social Security. When you make $1 billion, you gotta pay that same percentage in the fucking Social Security too. That's all we saying. That shouldn't be hard, rocket science or math. Like it's not Chinese arithmetic. My shit is at 10%, and I make fucking 40, 50. Nigga, you need to goddamn be. You making $1 billion, your shit need to be at 10%. And maybe more. I ain't gonna lie to you.
To expand Medicare to cover dental, vision, and hearing. It is unacceptable that millions of seniors are unable to read a newspaper because they cannot afford eyeglasses.
Period. You know how many people call with that? They can't even fucking read me their information or their number. Just for me to tell them, hey, unfortunately, the coverage that you have doesn't cover adults for this. It only covers children for that. You know how fucked up of some shit that is to say to somebody? Unfortunately, man, they only cover children for this. I can't see. I can't operate I'm sorry, man. Only thing I can tell you to do is to reach back out to, damn, that's some cold ass shit. But like I said, we're gonna get into the Free Luigi in a second. You gotta feel the burn first, because Bernie Sanders be cooking.
Can't have conversations with their grandchildren because they can't afford hearing aids, and have trouble eating because they cannot afford dentures. That should not be happening in the United States of America in the year 2025. Expanding Medicare to cover dental, vision, and hearing is an extremely popular concept. Poll after poll shows that 80% of the American people, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, support doing just that. Mr. President, when we talk about the anxieties that the American people are now experiencing, it is not just, to say the least, senior citizens. All across this country, there is a growing fear that the Trump administration is undermining the Constitution of our country, a Constitution which has kept us a free nation and an example, a model for the rest of the world for the last 200.
And not only that, yo, how the fuck are you taxing Social Security in the first fucking place? Is that real? Am I tripping? Are they really taxing people's Social Security checks? How the fuck are you taxing a tax? I know that gotta be. If y'all can look that up for me, whoever can see that, so are they taking taxes out of people's Social Security check? Cause that's fucking robbery right there in itself. Nigga, you pay 40 years of taxes, nigga, to get taxed out of the taxes you already paid. Get up out of here with that shit. They better not be doing that, bro. I know they ain't doing that. There ain't no way they taxing these people's Social Security check. They can't do that. Please tell me that ain't true. That's a double tax.
50 years. During the last month alone, President Trump has attempted to usurp the powers of Congress, illegally and unconstitutionally refusing to fund programs passed by Congress. He has illegally destroyed agencies like USAID and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that were created by Congress. And under the leadership of Mr. Musk, they have illegally and inappropriately gained access to tax data and Social Security data of millions of Americans, et cetera, et cetera. Every day, they are acting in an illegal and unconstitutional manner. And I would say this, and I don't know if people take it seriously or not, I do. Just this week, President Trump tweeted, quote, "He who saves..."
Oh my God. Oh my God. Man, I did not know that shit. They taxing these folks Social Security, yo. You know how fucking much of a goddamn demon you gotta be to do some shit like that? That's some fucking demon ass shit right there. Can't tax they fucking Social Security check. It's a tax already. That's the point of it. Like, man. I don't know, man.
This country does not violate any law, end of quote. Wow.
Lots of money, a little competition. Why would you not want to make money with this app? That app is called Audible. It's created by Amazon, and it is.
And then what
In
part
other
of
words,
what they was paying taxes for?
Trump
gets
sees
God
himself, the President of the United States, as above the law and immune from the basic rules of the Constitution and the separation of powers that have governed this country since the founding. Okay? Anything I want to do, I'm president, I can do it. Doesn't matter what Congress says, doesn't matter what the Constitution says, that doesn't matter what the rule of law is about. Hey, I'm the president, I'm trying to save the country. I don't need to hear from anybody else. That's not what Americans fought and died to preserve. That's not what this country is about. And with regard to the movement toward authoritarianism, let me say a few words about an area that I think has not gotten much attention at all, and that is Trump's attack on the free press, which is protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution. Founding fathers of this country considered freedom of speech and free press to be enormously important. That was the First Amendment. Mr. Trump has sued CBS and its parent company, Paramount, for $20 billion because he didn't like how they edited an interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. The company is now reportedly considering settling the lawsuit, and I certainly hope they do not do that, out of fear of retaliation from Trump's FCC. He did not like a television program on CBS. Well, many of us don't like television programs on CBS or NBC or Fox or ABC. But you don't sue somebody for $20 billion because you didn't like the program. And obviously, the intention of that lawsuit is clear. And that is that CBS and every other network and media outlet will now have to look over their shoulder. Oh my goodness, we're saying
It's fucked up though, because it's like other people be trying to make these type of points. It don't hold as much weight as when Bernie is checking your ass for being fucked up. It holds more weight because Bernie has, yeah, he's the perfect politician, man. Like, I'm just gonna be real. When you talk about a people politician, I don't think it's a better people politician than Bernie. You know, and I say that because I don't know the nigga personally, so I don't want to just assume, you know, like bro is just genuinely, you know what I mean? But goddamn, if you talking about like playing this shit to like really listening to people and speaking for people and you know just like doing shit the right way. I think Bernie has been fucking a great example of that. Great example. I think to a default. You know what I mean? When I say to a default, I think today with the way politics is played since the new era, it's not as clean. And you can just be the clean and do it all, everything right. I think you gotta slang a little bit of mud. You know what I mean? I think him being the perfect politician in this day and age is almost like it's like a gift and a curse. You know what I mean? Because the curse of it is he ain't willing to do what you gotta do in order to go to the next step. He just ain't. And he rather just respectfully bow out before he'll compromise himself in a way. It almost seems like. But it holds more weight when he checking your ass than when we hear other people, the Nancy Pelosi's, and like we don't really want to hear the fucking crooks and the criminals. We know crooks and criminals when we see them. You know what I mean? And I think he is represented since he has been his name has been in politics, a great representation of I mean, just being the people's politician, man. Like, just honestly.
saying something critical of Donald Trump. Is he going to sue us for $5 billion, for $10 billion? Is he going to drive us out of business? Maybe we should not run that program. Maybe we should not do that investigative report. Not just CBS. In recent times, he has sued ABC. He has sued Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram. He has sued the Des Moines Register. What crime did a little newspaper in Iowa make? What was their crime? They ran a poll which turned out, in retrospect, to be inaccurate. So pollsters all over America, be careful. There was a poll coming out just today, I saw it, that Trump's unfavorables are going up. Hey, you may be sued. Pull that poll. I mean, how absurd is that? And what kind of threat is it to freedom of speech and expression in this country? And, Mr. President, when we talk about the Trump administration's movement toward authoritarianism, we should take note of another remarkable and troubling set of events that happened just this week, and my colleague from Colorado spoke at length on that. We saw the President of the United States openly aligning himself with the dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin, to undermine the independence of Ukraine and abandon our closest democratic allies in Europe. Trump made it clear that he sees one of the world's most brutal dictators as his pal, and our longtime Democratic allies as his.
Don't get me wrong, man. That's where I kind of jump off the train with Bernie. This is where I kind of jump off the train with Bernie, man. Yo, chill out, bruh. You know what I mean? Chill out. You gotta go ahead. Hey, and I say that because I think you look at like the history between black people and Russia, it's actually quite interesting. Um, you know, just in general. I mean, the Black Panther era, even before that, uh, they put out a movie that was actually meant to counteract the Birth of a Nation movie. Um, so they put out a movie actually to counteract the propaganda of that. So I'm never gonna be, don't get me wrong, op is op, and the first chance I get, they all gone. But put it like this, I'm definitely not gonna look at them no more than the other one. You know what I mean? I don't really see um where they had niggas building up Russia like that for free. Just in my opinion.
Enemies. It appears that Mr. Trump wants a world that is safe for authoritarians and oligarchs, but dangerous and unstable for democracies. And when we talk about authoritarianism, we have got to mention the growing phenomenon in this country of the big lie. The big lie. Say something that is blatantly untrue, repeat it over and over again, and then blast that lie out on social media until people actually believe it. And let me mention one of the very big lies that Trump said recently regarding the war in Ukraine. Earlier this week, the President said that Ukraine started the war. Trump said that Ukraine started the war.
Technically, they did.
Really? That is, as I hope every member of the Senate knows.
And I say that, shout out to Black Sun, but that's where he was getting into the Dunbar, the whole situation that happened. They already knew if they did what they did with that area, Russia was gonna have no choice but to come in. So yeah, he actually was kind of right on that. Let me see. That's one of the things Black Sun was cooking me on in our debate. Yeah, I got cooked in that debate. One thing I know, you don't fuck with Black Sun when it come to goddamn geopolitics, goddamn geopolitical goddamn studies and shit. That nigga all over the map. I was like, oh shit. I realized I was like, yeah, I've been way too deep. I said I've been way too deep, bruh. This ain't no shit you study for 2 weeks, nigga, and get in there. Hell nah, that nigga was going back to shit from goddamn 68. Like, nigga, this right here led to this treaty. I said, oh yeah. Let me just let Black Son teach. I'll just raise questions. He continue teaching, nigga. I don't know what the fuck. So yeah. Now let's get on this shit right here. Free Luigi, man. Let's do this. I want y'all to see this shit. Let's see what we can do here. Yeah, let's start here, man. Let me just get y'all. Oh yeah, we gotta get to a statement. No, let's do it.
Attractive guy, and I think that's just instantly drawing a bunch of press and a bunch of love from the people to him. And then two, it's exposing the healthcare industry. That's the other reason. The healthcare debate's not brought up a lot, and so these people, they saw it as an opportunity to talk about healthcare, and so that's why they're out here.
I am here with my friends because we support Luigi Mandione for unaliving CEO Brian Thompson, because we take a stand. We take a stand, and most of the world as well is tired of insurance companies being corrupt and unnecessarily denying people hundreds of coverages, thousands of coverages, maybe even millions. And we are hoping that he walks a free man today.
I think that murder is always wrong, and I think it's kind of sickening that they're trying to condone or advocate for a murder when just because he's attractive and they killed someone that they don't like. Murder is never the answer.
We are against basically corrupted insurance companies, and Luigi finally did something about it, since killing CEO. And we definitely, I support 100% and even more beyond, because finally someone did something about it, because these insurance companies think they can just get away with denying coverages no matter who it is. Even if you're rich, they'll still deny it. And you know, he did something about it where 99% of the world would just complain, and the 1%, Luigi, was actually killed him, and you know, took a bite against corruption.
One of the comments that I got that was kind of sickening a little bit is murder is okay when it is killing someone who kills others, is essentially what they were trying to say. That because of the healthcare industry killing so many people, that it is then okay to murder the CEO. So kind of just trying to find different ways to justify the murder is what we're seeing out here.
We support what he did, you know, especially, you know, even though he did it by unaliving someone, but he did it for the right reason. For more, it may not be ethically moral what he did, but we think that he did it. Majority of us believe he did it for the correct reason because of what Brian Thompson did by being the and CEO of this insurance company, United Healthcare. But basically, basically, what he did was not 100% ethic, but he did it for the correct reason, we think, because of Brian Thompson being in charge of being CEO of denying so many coverages.
On trial. Have to die. We, the people, want Luigi free. We, the people, want Luigi free. We, the people, want Luigi free. Who's the real terrorist? UHC. Who's the real terrorist? UHC. We, the people. People are dying. People are dying. Stop denying. Stop denying. That's my denial. With the system on trial. With the system on trial.
That sounds about right, I guess. What time is it? It's 2. Okay, I think all he's gonna do is like say not guilty.
Anyone want to sign up for?
Okay, don't worry. I just hope there's someone to.
You guys are not having any court business today. Please make a detour across the street.
Press on the side of the street. Press on the side of the street. Say it a third time.
want y'all to see that. I want y'all to see the support that has developed. And I want y'all to, and the reason why I want to make sure that y'all get a chance to really understand this support, because remember, the dark side has been talking like this to y'all for goddamn 7 years. For years now. For years. He's like, it's crazy. It's crazy, but look at what happens right here. Why? Because real people know it's only certain solutions to these conditions right here. You gotta make fucking examples out of people who think they can fuck you over. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. So this is why it's a free Luigi campaign. But let's keep going.
Luigi, what do you think of the support for you outside?
Where do you want to go? Oh, we can't lock it down.
Free, free Luigi! Free Luigi! Free, free Luigi! Stop denials with AI! How many people have to die? How many people have to die? Stop denials with AI! Stop denials with AI! How many people have to die? How many people have to die?
I think people are showing up for two reasons. One, he's an attractive guy, and I think that's just instantly drawing a bunch of press and a bunch of love from the people to him. And then two, it's exposing the healthcare industry. That's the other reason. The healthcare debate's not brought up a lot, and so these people, they saw it as an opportunity to talk about healthcare, and so that's why they're out here.
I'm here with my friends because we support Luigi Mandione for unaliving CEO Brian Thompson because we take a stand. We take a stand, and most of the world as well is tired of insurance companies being corrupt and unnecessarily denying people hundreds of coverages, thousands of coverages, maybe even millions. And we are hoping that he walks a free man today.
Now I have to stop and ask y'all the question, right? Because I see the flags out there. There are some rainbow flags out there. There's a lot of different things. But when we talk about people getting fucked over by the healthcare center, the healthcare system, right? Do you think that this is a left argument, a right argument, or is this something that's a bipartisan argument? And when I say bipartisan, I just mean that people, and I mean like the people, real people from from all different walks of life have probably an agreement. This is probably a meeting ground on how the system is functioning healthcare wise. Just stick with strictly healthcare. Strictly healthcare. Do y'all think that this is something that is? Do you think that these are all leftists that are out here and are in support of Luigi, or do you think that this is a blend of people? Because I see what Luigi did, and he looks more left or liberal, I guess you could say. But what he did is not something that's far fetched from me seeing, you know, a constitutionalist in the South or something. You know, somebody, just the Fourth Amendment. You know what I mean? Like, and what I'm trying to describe is just like two cultures that usually clash, right? You have like this more the more like, you know, the liberal city kind of, you know, um, just a different style as to like more of the country hunters and, you know, work off the land type. So usually those two cultures seem to clash in politics. But I wonder if this is like a meeting ground for that. If this type of cause. And I say that because Trump is condemning these people and the murder or the assassination of the UPMC CEO. And he said that these were very sick people. And it was odd that he used the term sick. You know, I did find that odd. You know what I mean? Because, you know, even if they are sick, that's part of the problem that I think people is addressing with this Trump is that there are very sick people. And 9 times out of 10, these sick people can't get help because they're out of network. You know what I mean? A lot of the times because, you know, this just isn't they say because this type of sickness just isn't covered, unfortunately. You know? So I found it odd he used the word these were sick people. Well, unfortunately, they can't rely on their insurance to goddamn cure them. They'll be footing the bill. And I think where this case kind of boils over with the Luigi situation is if had this been a case where bro probably wasn't paying money into his insurance, he probably wouldn't even like flip out as to this extent and crash the way he crashed. But the fact, bro, probably felt like, bro, he been spending bank on that shit. Bro probably looked at the numbers, like, oh, how much money he gave they ass, bro. And was like, hold up, bro. You gonna deny me? I think that becomes an issue. You know what I mean? I think it definitely becomes an issue. Let me get this going.
I think that murder is always wrong, and I think it's kind of sickening that they're trying to condone or advocate for a murder when just because he's attractive and they killed someone that they don't like. Murder is never the answer.
We are against basically corrupted insurance companies, and Luigi finally did something about it since killing CEO. And we definitely I support 100% and even more beyond, because finally someone did something about it, because these insurance companies think they can just get away with denying coverages no matter who it is. Even if you're rich, they'll still deny it. And you know, he did something about it where 99% of the world would just complain, and the 1%, Luigi, was actually killed him, and you know, took a bite against corruption.
Luigi, what do you think of the support for you outside?
So let's see, man. Let's take a look at this.
Luigi, what do you think of the support for you outside?
Let's go back really quick.
Where do you want to go? Oh, we can't lock it down.
We're not gonna play with it. Let's get into it.
Key benefits about using Indeed is easy to use and everything is in one place. So Indeed provided a great
Luigi thanks everybody for being here today.
Luigi Mangione, the young man that police say shot and killed the CEO of United Healthcare, is facing charges in multiple jurisdictions that could land him behind bars for life or even on death row. And today, he appeared in New York State Court where he faces 10 charges, including murder and criminal possession of a weapon. We're going to take a look at what happened inside and outside of that courtroom, as well as how we got here and what's next. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. It's been 8.
And we just gonna be real about this, right? Bro took one for the team, but he gone. Like, he guilty of both. Like, we just gonna be real. I get the protest, I get all of that. Bro is gone. He is definitely gone. But I don't think that you have to allow him to just go off in vain. You know what I mean? If this is real and it really meant, and that was the point of it, then now you have to continue now to be able, because now that the ears is on you, now you have their ears. What is the issue? Now you gotta get people to, and it's hard because until people go through something, and then now they want to fucking look at the system different. But it was cool when, you know what I mean, everything was good. You was perfectly fine. You know what I mean? You didn't need really your insurance. You just paying for it until you fucking need it and you realize, yo, you been getting fucked.
Weeks since we last saw Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old accused of stalking United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside of the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan on December 4th of last year, as Thompson was headed to an investors conference scheduled for later that morning. And that is when Luigi Mangione, according to authorities, allegedly murdered him. And authorities say that Mangione is the hooded figure who shot Thompson in the back on that sidewalk that is normally bustling with people. He allegedly took off, eventually using an e-bike, a taxi, a bus to flee New York City. Shortly after the killing, the NYPD released surveillance images of a man believed to be the shooter. The police released images that were captured inside of a Starbucks. He was seen with a mask on, obscuring his face. Presuming it's the same person, he was also captured without the mask on, smiling in surveillance from the hostel he was reportedly staying at. And then there are other images from outside the crime scene, allegedly showing a man carrying a concealed firearm, acting suspiciously. We have another image of the suspect captured from inside a cab where he can once again be seen wearing a mask over his face. And Luigi Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's of all places out in Altoona after a week-long manhunt. Although it's kind of mixed reporting on that, our understanding it was an employee who reported that this man seen on all the wanted posters and dominating news headlines was in the restaurant. Not sure the involvement of a customer there, but once Mangione was captured, that's when police found some interesting things, like a ghost gun and journal entries that apparently...
Bro. Oh, they caught him with a ghost. Yeah, bro gone, man. He gone for a minute. I know if that's it, they caught him with a ghost gun. And that is the murder, man. Yo. What state they
apparently he had with him.
In New York with a ghost.
And if you read through these writings, it seemingly points to an anger at the healthcare industry, talking about how they're uncaring and corrupt. Now, this is a story that shocked the country. It led to some very interesting discourse, as well as an intense interest in Mangione's background. And in fact, Law and Crime Productions just released a documentary called Who is Luigi Mangione on Investigation Discovery. You can actually stream it right now on Max. And it digs into his life, the apparent detour that he took from valedictorian at an elite private school to now accused killer. And by the way, it seems that that documentary has just been brought up in court for Mangione's most recent court appearance today. I'll get into that in a second. So, Mangione has been locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center out in Brooklyn since his arrest, the MDC. That's where also Sean Combs is currently being housed. It was quite the scene. He was escorted by what looked like an army of police officers. Even Mayor Eric Adams was there, all taking him to the courthouse. And right now, Luigi Mangione is the defendant in 3 separate cases connected to the death of Brian Thompson. You have a state case in Pennsylvania, a state case in New York, and a federal case in New York. And I'll dig into the progress of each case in a moment, but just talking about what happened at the beginning, Mangione, he had his first appearance in New York State court, entered a not guilty plea just before Christmas in December, and today he appeared again at the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse, where he faces a long list of charges. First-degree murder as an act of terrorism, second-degree murder as an act of terrorism, second-degree murder, an intentional killing, possession of a forged instrument, criminal possession of a weapon silencer, 2 criminal possessions of a weapon charges for loaded firearms, criminal possession of a weapon assault rifle, criminal possession of a weapon ammo clip, criminal possession of a weapon ghost gun. And in fact, under New York State law, murder in the first degree only applies to a narrow list of aggravating circumstances, and one of those is an act of terrorism. By the way, I got to call something out here. The stories that we cover on Sidebar, I think, highlight just how crucial it is to protect yourself, particularly online, by the way, these days. And that is especially true when it comes to protecting your personal information. So whether it's spam, identity theft, online stalking, our amazing sponsor, Surfshark, offers an incredible solution to these issues with their alternative number feature. So this service, which is built right into the Surfshark app, it lets you create an entirely new identity, complete with a random US phone number, email, name. This way, you can keep your real number and details completely private. It is great for signing up for services or websites that maybe you don't fully trust, ensuring your personal phone number stays free from spam. Also, with alternative number, you don't have to give your real phone number to strangers while shopping on various marketplaces. So if you're ready to take your online privacy to that next level, check out Surfshark in the description below or visit surfshark.com/alt-sidebar. Sign up now and get Surfshark's alternative number feature plus 4 extra months of Surfshark. So now with all that, let's get into what happened today in New York State Court as he faces those state charges. So CNN reported that there were dozens of apparent supporters outside that courtroom, some with signs that read, "Free Luigi" and "Healthcare is a human right," some even wearing Free Luigi clothing. In fact, The Independent reported that there was cheering going on. According to the New York Times, about 100 young women just line the hallway in that courthouse. So Mangione shows up wearing this green sweater and also what appears to be some sort of vest, possibly a bulletproof vest. He is escorted by a ton of security personnel, and then he's taken into the courtroom and there's a hearing. Now, to be clear, there's no cameras in that courtroom. There's no audio recording in that courtroom. So everything that we learned about what happened there is based on reporting from different outlets. So, for example, the first issue facing Luigi Mangione was the fact that he was cuffed as he was in that courtroom. According to the BBC, Mangione's counsel, Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, argued that he shouldn't be restrained, saying, quote, "This is a highly publicized and photographed court proceeding with strong public interest," and that him being cuffed implies that there is, quote, "no presumption of innocence for him." And she also reportedly emphasized that he is a model prisoner, that there hasn't been an issue. She argued that he is being treated differently, that he shouldn't have to wear these restraints, and obviously a defense attorney wouldn't want that, because as these images are being publicized and being published, could it negatively affect his ability to get a fair and impartial jury down the road if you have potential jury members who see these photos, right? Now, the judge indicated that security preferred for him to be restrained, so the cuffs stayed on. And that's not surprising because many times judges will defer to security personnel within the courtroom in the courthouse about what's best. But moving on, Friedman-Agnifilo then indicated that the defense hadn't received the bulk of discovery yet, allegedly past the discovery deadline. And she said this included New York police reports and even seemingly made an allegation that evidence may be deliberately being withheld, and also that his constitutional search and seizure rights may have been violated out in Pennsylvania. It was reported by The Independent that prosecutors, though, had turned over police body cam footage, DNA, forensic testing material, the autopsy report, grand jury testimony. But Agnifilo also objected to setting a schedule for motions because of the multiple cases that he faces, and really emphasizing that the feds haven't indicated if they're even seeking the death penalty yet in their case, and that a motion schedule shouldn't be set yet. Agnifilo reportedly saying That is where our focus is. That's why the discovery is so critical to what we can put in our motions. And she also reportedly seemed to argue that the theories of the federal and state prosecutions are inconsistent with one another. And then, as I mentioned before, Freedman Agnifilo seemed to bring up that documentary that I mentioned before. Again, the one that Long Crime Productions produced. And the reason she brought it up was seemingly in reference to whether Mangione is going to receive a fair trial. She complained about how the NYPD chief of detectives and the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, quote, sat down with HBO and put hair and makeup on. And the argument was they allegedly have time to do that. But at the same time, she and the defense team are not getting the material and evidence that they need. And she even makes the claim that there were things brought up in that documentary, evidence, material, that she's never seen. Now, according to People, Freedman Agnifilo also apparently complained that actors playing Mangione on TV didn't sound anything like him. Maybe that was a reference to the documentary. Maybe it was a reference to something else, not entirely clear. But this goes to her overall argument that his right to a fair trial is, quote, continuously being impacted. Those appear to be Karen Freedman Agnifilo's words there. Now, according to Inner City Press on X, the judge did set a motion schedule where the defense has to have their paperwork in by April 9th, the prosecution in by May 14th. The next hearing is going to be set for June. No trial date has been set as of yet. And
insurance companies do not want you to know this if you have been in a car accident within the last year. You could be sitting on a major cash payout if you have been in a car accident. Yes, even as a passenger. Most people don't realize they could be eligible for a significant payout, but I'm here to help you figure out exactly what you're owed. You could be sitting.
And he apparently will remain in federal custody, presumably at the MDC. And I'll tell you what, after that hearing, Karen Freedman Agnifilo, outside of court, had some words.
Luigi Mangione remains in federal custody, where he is being prosecuted in 3 jurisdictions by the federal government, by New York State, and by Altoona, Pennsylvania. But he's being held in federal custody, and the Department of Justice has refused to allow him to be in state custody, despite the fact that they've all agreed that the state court is going to go first. Now, this is problematic for several reasons. Number one, the federal government is still considering whether to execute Luigi and considering whether to seek the death penalty. So we are fighting that simultaneously while going first here in state court. And it impacts our ability to meet with him before court, after court. He's constantly surrounded by law enforcement. He's in shackles. He was wearing a vest today, some looked like I don't even know what it looked like, but a very serious vest with his legs shackled and his arms shackled. And so he's being treated differently because he's being held in federal custody than any other person who would be facing serious murder one charges in New York State court. And I made a record in court today that I don't understand what this show of danger is for. When I go visit Luigi at MDC in Brooklyn, I sit with him. He is unshackled. He walks around freely in the visiting area. We sit in a room together without law enforcement hovering over us. But for whatever reason, here, despite all the law enforcement, they need him to be wearing this vest. They need him to be shackled, and they stand right over us, and we get no time with him. So he is being treated differently because of this unusual and, frankly, just the fact that he's being prosecuted by 3 jurisdictions for one event. It all is about one thing, one single event.
Freedman Agnifilo also said that while the prosecutors are making an effort to get discovery to them, there's still a lot of important information they're missing.
Yeah, that's
but what we haven't received.
How is that? How would he be getting charged from 3 different states for one murder? Like, that shit can't happen in 3 different places, yo. What the fuck are they doing right now? Like, that's a lot.
Is the police paperwork from New York City. We haven't received any of, they call them DD5s. Those are the follow-up police reports that detectives write. I am sure there will be hundreds of them, and we have not received those yet. Very important. We've also just today received the discovery regarding the arrest in the Altoona case, and we've received a little of that previously, and we are concerned that Luigi's constitutional rights were violated in Pennsylvania, and there are serious search and seizure issues that will be litigated in that case in Pennsylvania and in this case here and in the federal case, because it is alleged that Luigi had a gun on him and had other property on him that they are going to use against him in all of the cases. And if there is a search and seizure issue, and again, we have to review all of the paperwork and camera footage when we receive it before we say definitively whether we think there is one. But so far what we are seeing is we think there is a serious search and seizure issue. Luigi's right to a fair trial is being infringed upon because he is being publicly treated as guilty and as having the presumption of guilt as opposed to the presumption of innocence, which is what he is entitled to. And although, of course, I understand the NYPD's need for a press conference before an arrest or after an arrest, which they did here. I didn't like it, but they did it, and I understood it. What I did not understand was how shocking it was that this week on HBO, in a documentary, I see the chief of detectives and the New York City mayor, full hair and makeup done, sitting down and giving an interview for television and talking about the evidence in Luigi's case, talking about police paperwork that we don't have, talking about forensics that we have not yet received. I guess we have now today, but I didn't when I was sitting there learning about the case, hearing an actor play Luigi reading from a journal that they say is Luigi's, and we have yet to receive it from the prosecution. And so Mr. Mann's statements telling every search and
a little bit more about Mangione generally and what we know about his federal case. Let's talk about that. So he is facing serious charges in federal court and could end up facing the death penalty if he's convicted. While Mangione has been indicted in the state case, an indictment hasn't been filed as of yet in his federal case, but a criminal complaint was filed with the court in December, laying out what the government says has happened step by step. So there are multiple charges in this federal complaint. You have stalking, travel and interstate commerce, basically that he allegedly traveled to New York and then stalked Brian Thompson. Stalking, use of interstate facilities, that he used cell phone, interstate wires, the internet to stalk and ultimately kill Brian Thompson. Murder through use of a firearm. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then a firearms offense where he possessed, brandished, discharged a firearm that was equipped with a firearm silencer and a muffler. Now, earlier this month, the Honorable Catherine H. Parker of the Southern District of New York granted a continuance around the same time that another attorney was added to the defense team. And the court filing states it is further found that given the nature of the prosecution and the complexity of the case, the government and defense counsel, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, Mark Agnifilo, who's, by the way, her husband and representing Sean Combs in his criminal case, and Avraham Moskowitz, Esquire, have jointly requested a continuance of 30 days to permit both parties adequate preparation for pretrial proceedings and the trial itself, and that the defendant, through counsel, has consented that such a continuance may be granted for that purpose. It is further found that the granting of such a continuance best serves the ends of justice and outweighs the best interests of the public and the defendant in a speedy trial, and therefore it is ordered that the request for a continuance is hereby granted until March 19th, 2025. Now, at the beginning of February, Judge Parker granted an application from the Federal Defenders of New York to name a new member of Mangione's defense team. The application reads, I recommend the appointment of Avraham Moskowitz as learned counsel. Mr. Moskowitz is a member of the SDNY capital panel and has frequently been found learned in the law of capital cases. That means a death penalty case. In arriving at the recommendation, I have contacted the government and defense counsel and have reviewed the conflict list. Mr. Moskowitz is available and does not appear to have any conflict. Now, that's really interesting because Mangione could face the death penalty if he's found guilty of killing Thompson at that federal level. And the court would want a defense attorney who is well versed in capital punishment and the changes that it can bring to a case. Moskowitz has experience. He served as the Assistant United States Attorney in the Southern District of New York, where this case is being held from 1985 to 1991. He's now a founding partner at his own law firm. And by the way, that law firm behind the Agnifilos released a statement when Moskowitz was appointed, saying the Agnifilo in-trader team is pleased to have Avi Moskowitz lend his considerable expertise in death penalty cases to Mr. Mangioni's federal case as learned counsel. The charges could not be more serious, and our client needs every resource at his disposal to fight these unprecedented charges in 3 jurisdictions. So what about that third jurisdiction? One state over in Pennsylvania? Well, a court appearance was scheduled for next week, and Mangione was supposed to attend virtually. But the court docket now shows that the appearance has been canceled, and there's nothing else scheduled at this time. Officers in Altoona say that when they were called to the McDonald's, Mangione was sitting at a table looking at a laptop with a backpack on the floor beside him. The arrest report reads, Co-Affian asked the male to pull down his medical mask so he could see his face. The male complied and pulled down his mask. Affian and Co-Affian immediately recognized him as the suspect from New York City incident after seeing photos released of him from media sources. Co-Affian asked the male for identification and provided officers a New Jersey driver's license bearing the name Mark Rosario and a date of birth of 7/21/1988. Affian took the license, ran the information through the dispatch center. Co-Affian asked the male if he had been to New York recently, and the male became quiet and started to shake. During a search of the defendant's backpack, officers located a black 3D printed pistol and a black silencer. The pistol had a metal slide with a plastic handle and a metal threaded barrel. The pistol had 1 loaded Glock magazine with 6 9mm full metal jacket rounds. There was also 1 Look 9mm hollow point round. The silencer was also 3D printed. And that kind of gives you some insight into the 5 charges that Mangione faces out in PA. So we have forgery, carrying a firearm without a license, tampering with identification, possessing instruments of a crime, and providing false identification to law enforcement authorities. Now, Mangione's legal team apparently launched a website to aggregate everything that people might want to know about the case, and at the top it reads, due to the extraordinary volume of inquiries and outpouring of support, this site was created and is maintained by Luigi Mangione's New York legal defense team to provide answers to frequently asked questions, accurate information about his cases, and dispel misinformation. The intent is to share factual information regarding the unprecedented multiple prosecutions against him. And underneath that, Mangione himself provided a statement which reads, I am overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support. Powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions as mail has flooded MDC from across the country and around the globe. While it is impossible for me to reply to most letters, please know that I read every one that I receive. Thank you again to everyone who took the time to write. I look forward to hearing more in the future. And the website also includes a frequently asked questions section, which addresses things like what can be sent to Mangione while he's locked up. And under the question, may I send him items like books? The answer reads, due to the overwhelming generosity of the members of the public, numerous books have already been mailed to Luigi. He is very appreciative, but kindly asks that people temporarily refrain from sending more books. The number of books he can possess at any given time is limited. And another frequently asked question is apparently whether people can send photos to Mangione while he's behind bars. The site clarifies that yes, he can be sent photos in accordance with BOP, Bureau of Prisons mail procedures, but also warns, please note that
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Look at this.
every photo that is received is screened and reviewed by law enforcement, so just taking note about what those photos might be. At the bottom of the site's homepage is something that has been quite controversial. It is a link to a legal fund through the crowdfunding site Give, Send, Go, and according to the apparent organizers of the campaign, who call themselves the December 4th Legal Committee, they say they've increased their goal to $1 million, saying, we do not think this is ambitious, but rather appropriate. Now, here's the thing about that. Long crime correspondent Chris Stewart spoke with Sam Beard, one of the organizers of the fundraising effort, about the recent report that more than $300,000 had been raised and offered to Mangione's defense team.
To clarify what that actually meant is we had spent a while trying to get in contact with his team, and naturally they're very busy, and Luigi himself is a hard cat to get a hold of. And we got word from his lead legal defense attorney that he was aware of the fund and was indeed ready to accept it. So that announcement was sort of actually just saying we had made that preliminary contact, and his team, he and his legal team have decided to accept the funds. And then we've got this sort of like actual technological transfer of the funds from one account to another. And that's an ongoing process.
According to the fundraising site, the amount raised recently broke $500,000. Along with the link to the fundraiser, the website states, please note that by choosing to donate money to his legal defense, you acknowledge that it does not give you any right or access to information or materials regarding the cases, nor will you be able to dictate how any donated monies are spent. And Chris Stewart asked Sam Beard about the ethical implications of showing support for somebody who allegedly committed murder. And if that wasn't interesting enough to hear what he has to say, Beard's cat also made an appearance during the interview too. Take a look.
It's brought up some really important questions about morality, about ethics, about the nature of our system. But at the end of the day, when you have an unjust system that degrades human life, someone is going to be the target of that anger. And it's either going to be the people who benefit from that system or the people who suffer the most under it, who are going to be scapegoated. I think at the end of the day, what the outpouring of support has revealed is that millions of hardworking Americans know that the people who are actually destroying this country don't arrive by migrant caravan. They arrive by limousine and private jet, wearing $10,000 suits and work on the top floor executive suites of fancy glass-clad skyscrapers on Wall Street. And I think at the end of the day, everybody knows this version of America is unsustainable. And the question has sort of emerged is, will people...
That's the fucking key point, right? What I just wanted to pause right there, really quick. That's the key point. Everybody knows that this shit is not, and this is what be weird to me about how certain niggas then got so fucking smart with their economics and shit. Like, nigga. And now they got all of these plans. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Everybody knows that this shit that they doing is not sustainable, nigga. It's not. Wasting fossil fuels the way that they waste them, it's not sustainable. There's no getting around that. And you got niggas like it, bro. We almost talk. We believe more in this shit than these folks, man. It's sad. We almost believe this shit is more invincible than they do. That's the key point. Go back to it.
Glass-clad skyscrapers on Wall Street. And I think at the end of the day, everybody knows this version of America is unsustainable. And the question has sort of emerged is, will people band together to bring dignity, liberty, and justice for all, or will things just continue to get worse?
But and again, innocent until proven guilty, is murder the path to getting that change?
You know, at the end of the day, standing up to the kings who think they own this country is as American as apple pie. People aren't celebrating murder.
See what I mean? Do you see what I mean? So when you can't get around the price for what you want, it's going to be death. Just can't get around that. It's going to be death. And that don't just go one way. That could be your life or the others. But the price of what people want, they already have understanding of that. Even this motherfucker, soft as this dude is, he even know, hey, sometimes, hey, this is just the way shit is understood. For some fucking reason, we think it's gonna be banking black.
But they understand that Luigi's alleged, oh my goodness, Kitty, Luigi's alleged actions have changed the conversation back to where it really belongs, right? A conversation about all of us, about a plurality of hardworking Americans who work longer, harder than any generation that's come before us. And we're sort of at this reckoning in the American story where we're like, what direction?
What do? Harder and longer than any generation. 40 hours today ain't shit for real. That's like the bare minimum. You feel like your job don't like you, you only get 40 hours. Think about that shit. You only get 40 hours a week, you start looking at the job different. Yeah, you motherfuckers don't really fuck with me, do they? Like they say they do. You really fuck with me, I'll be 60 hours is insane. Is insane. And to give that up and them 60 hours that you giving up for you to be getting robbed over an agreement that you believe you have. So you're paying into an agreement you believe you have, and as soon as you need it, they act like you ain't gave them shit. They can't do shit for you. Like, huh? You ain't missing no payments on those premiums, none of that. None of that. But now when you need it, they need to look over it. You gotta prove all of this shit that you needed. Is this really medically necessary? And then they gotta determine that this don't really fit the criteria based on, huh? Not only that, they trying to tell you how sick you are. It's crazy. What's up? What's up, Teddy Graham?
Are we going to go?
What's up, Teddy Graham?
And when it's like, the question of morality and the question of ethics, it comes up a lot. And I think it's a really, really important question. But, at the end of the day, we live in a world saturated with violence, right? We've got AI algorithms run by the largest private health insurance corporation in the world that sort of systematically denies people life-saving medical care in order to return value to the shareholders. And it's like a deeply corrupt and creepy and frankly bizarre system that just that is out of touch with what Americans need and what they deserve.
Because I wonder, even with the death of Brian Thompson and how shocking it was, I'm sure, for not just his family, but his coworkers and people who do that work, whether we agree on the healthcare system and all of that, of what change could all of this even bring to a system? Does the system even look at losing a life as something that's going to be much of a difference when it comes to denying these claims, which, according to the evidence that's been laid forward, was the motivation for what Mangione is accused of doing?
Now, before the hearing today, I actually had the opportunity to sit down with litigator Rich Schoenstein about the different legal aspects surrounding these cases. Take a listen. Rich, so good to see you. Thanks so much for coming here on Sidebar. So I first want to start off with, I don't think I got a chance to ask you about this, about the state case, the state charges, because do you think the first-degree murder and one of the second-degree murder charges actually applies here? Let me tell you why I say that, because it says the defendant in the county of New York on or about December 4th, 2024, having been more than 18 years old at the time of the commission of the crime, that all makes sense, with intent to cause the death of another person, that makes sense, caused the death of Brian Thompson. When I say it makes sense, I'm saying based on the facts of the case, it makes sense. Not he's still innocent until proven guilty. But then this is the part that I have questions on. And said person was killed in furtherance of an act of terrorism involving a violent act and acts dangerous to human life that were in violation of the criminal laws of this state and were intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence the policies of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion, and affect the conduct of a unit of government by murder, assassination, or kidnapping. Does that apply here?
So, time the fuck out, because that looks bad. If you are saying that the healthcare center is a unit of the government, nigga, then that fucking belongs to us, nigga. And if you ain't doing right, then yeah, you fucking right. Your head should be in the streets, rolling. I already told you that's dark side logic from the beginning. Not fucking playing with people. This is just an example of the answer. This is just an example of the answer.
A really good question. First of all, we know the reason that they have alleged this, because first-degree murder under New York state law is the only way you can get a sentence of life imprisonment without the opportunity for parole. If it's a second-degree murder, and in New York, intentional killing is only second degree. Some states intentional is first degree, but in New York it's only second degree.
And by the way, he is charged with that too. He's charged with just straight up second degree murder intent, which I think is probably their easiest charge to actually find him guilty on if this goes to trial. But it's the first degree and this other second degree that I'm asking about. Yeah.
So the prosecutors want to be able to seek life imprisonment in prison without chance of parole. So they have upped this with this terrorism enhancement. Now, does it fit what you just read? Does it fit the words? Well, here's how I analyze it. So, assuming the allegations are correct, and of course, as you say, they have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in front of a jury, all of that. He killed a person who he didn't have any personal experience or beef with. He did it purposefully, and he did it to send a message, right? Do you agree with all that so far?
Yeah, I would agree with that based on what's been laid out so far.
Right, to send a message about the insurance industry. So wasn't that arguably an act to intimidate others, to terrorize people in that industry, to make them feel in danger, to influence them? I don't buy.
Well, let me ask you: is a civilian
feel that? Just straight up, they shouldn't be feeling comfortable fucking you over. If that was the point, that's exactly how the fuck they should feel. They should be on edge right now. Edge right now. And really, you need to be figuring out how to goddamn renegotiate with your goddamn members on their plans. And see what? One of the things that happened, actually, let me let this a little bit play out.
In population, other executives at insurance companies.
Sure, they're civilians. Listen, I don't see how it gets you to influencing the government. There's parts of that about influencing the government to do something. That doesn't seem applicable. But if he did what is alleged, he did it on purpose to scare.
Attractive guy, and I think that's just instantly drawing a bunch of press and a bunch of love from
Health over wealth!
Can you tell us about your sign?
Yes. Government recognized terrorism, MLK, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Luigi Mangione. And this just speaks to the fact that historically, many human rights leaders who have stood up against mistreatment, against apartheid, have also been labeled as terrorists to sow doubt and fear.
Obviously, what Luigi did was an act of violence. Not going to touch on that as much, but he
has lifted us out of the dust in the trivialness of politics and legislation.
And I believe that this is being done to send a message.
Healthcare should not be for profit. Yeah. That is the bare minimum. If you put profit anywhere near protecting human life, people will prioritize profit. You cannot have a for-profit system that prioritizes human life and profit. It is impossible.
I've had somebody on the floor fainting, on the verge of dying, who was literally saying, begging, please don't call an ambulance because my family cannot afford it. Do you know what it is to have somebody in so much pain and only
Let's go back.
Cannot afford it? Do you know what it is?
Look at that. Charge for a ride used to be $900. Additional charge per mile, $15. Today, a charge for a ride, $13.85. Additional charge per mile, $20 fucking dollars. The FDNY is proposing to increase the price of ambulance rides to hospitals by some 50% due to inflation and increased salaries of EMS workers. Sheesh.
It is to have somebody in so much pain and only thinking my family cannot afford it. I'd like to ask the public in general, why is there...
This is the thing though, because see, they have to pay the healthcare workers more, right? And so this is where the problem is with turning fucking the medical industry, your health, into a fucking bottom line, into profit. Is because now, okay, well yeah, we gotta pay the healthcare, the EMTs more, right? But guess what? We gonna charge just like any other thing when they taxing it. We'll charge the who? The consumer. So in this case, who is the consumer in this type of situation? The person that's fucking sick. What type of sick ass shit is that, yo?
A correlation with profit?
And just think, you talking about somebody who probably ain't trying to fuck with you in the first place. They just in a vulnerable state, ain't got no choice but to fuck with you at this point. If it takes an ambulance, they ain't got no choice but to fuck with you.
And denying people the right to healthcare in their most vulnerable moments.
As you may be aware, there are some current health insurance policies out, such as limiting the number of hours of anesthesia that will be covered by health insurance for patients. And recently, another health insurance company changed their policy on benefits for children with autism. Yeah. At the end of the day, our message is not to comment on any healthcare policy alternatives, but to state
we're going to have the most successful local food system in the world if you stop throwing your food in the trash can. My name is JD Hill. I'm the founder of
insurance companies, business people, and people looking to make a profit should not be the ones in charge of which healthcare treatments or procedures people can receive.
Health over wealth!
What's up, guys? 2:28 p.m., December 21st, 2024. I'm here in Washington Square Park in New York City. There appears to be a few things going on right now. There's a rap battle cipher happening. There's some kind of TikTok dance challenge, a Free the Hostages protest. And I'm at the Free Luigi rally. You guys probably know who Luigi is. He's being held at MDC in Brooklyn right now.
Nigga in there for a body, but he doing the right thing. I said Luigi been the dawn since he put his Pampers on. Vagabonds ran out the mouth like a marathon. Spazzing out, he hopped in the whip, then he carried on. With the shooters, got more names than every on. Free Luigi, gang, that ass. Free Luigi. I'll trade plays. I've been in jail for 5 years. He don't know what it's like yet.
He is suspected of assassinating the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson.
Brian Thompson is dead after being shot in Midtown Manhattan. The shooting happened near the Midtown Hilton. Thompson was not staying in the hotel, but we've learned he was in New York for an investors conference.
According to a manifesto that was leaked by investigative journalist Ken Klippenstein, who we interview later in this video, Luigi has a major problem with the health insurance industry, and possibly health insurance claim denials, which essentially means insurance companies refusing to cover the cost of medical treatment for insured patients, aka paying customers. For you pampered Europeans out there who don't know what freedom tastes like, let me explain something to you. In the United States, on top of sales and personal income tax, we also pay, on average, $550 a month to private companies for something called health insurance, who in return give us a cool card that we take to the doctor when something goes wrong. At the hospital or at the front desk of an urgent care clinic, the doctor or receptionist, before telling you what's wrong or what the options are for treatment, will first ask you if you have the card or not. If you don't have the card, just getting into the door and being seen by a doctor is between 2 to 10 times more expensive. Then after you're in there, the tomfoolery continues. After a doctor diagnoses you and makes a recommendation as to what they believe is the correct course of action, whether it be surgery, therapy, medication, or what have you, they have to file a claim with your insurance provider and ask them, the ones you're paying, if it's in budget for their company. This is called filing a health insurance claim. In some cases, companies will deny the claims, which forces doctors and physicians to present their patients with a depressing ultimatum. Either pay exorbitant uninsured rates for care, or if you can't afford it, get the hell out of here, you sick bastard, and come back with some money. And if you can't find some money, you could submit an appeal and begin that lengthy process, which on average takes over 180 days, a window in which 47% of respondents said their health condition got worse. United Healthcare, of which Brian Thompson was the CEO, has the highest claim denial rate of any other major health insurance company. Part of this has to do with the fact that during COVID, the company began using AI to assess and deny claims.
Data is at the core of our agenda to improve healthcare, which directly influences how we develop innovative consumer solutions.
According to a class action lawsuit filed in Minnesota by the estates of 2 deceased patients, the AI tool they deployed, called NaviHealth, now defunct, had a known 90% error rate, but the company refused to fix the problem, leading to a series of protests and more litigation from across the country, way before Luigi entered the picture.
Complicating the crime, Thompson was under investigation for insider trading. The City of Hollywood's Firefighters Pension Fund is part of a class action lawsuit against Thompson and United Healthcare.
These parasites had it coming, Luigi allegedly writes, framing Brian Thompson as a predatory businessman and himself as an arbiter of karmic retribution. Thompson leaves behind a soon-to-be ex-wife and 2 teenage sons, which is sad. People dying sucks. However, 41% of young voters polled by Emerson College in Boston say the assassination was quote-unquote acceptable. And the past few weeks on social media have seen a rabid frenzy of cult-like Luigi worship, exalting him as a righteous reaper who took matters into his own hands. Something of a communist Kyle Rittenhouse, fulfilling a deep, almost primal void that so many have had for an Italian-American anti-hero since Tony Soprano left us in 2007.
His commissary good, he got bitches visiting him, all that.
Despite having pled not guilty, market data suggests that Luigi hats are flying off the shelves at record rates. And with no progressive policy change in the cards for the next 4 years, scores of young progressives have been given hope.
This is a person that he saw was the head of a company that was guiding a company that implemented an AI system to deny claims to vulnerable people, elderly people, that had a denial rate of over almost 90%, that was continuing, to just profit off of widespread suffering.
If you were to ask how many people who are insured get denied their healthcare claims, there's no math on that because they will never release those numbers. They don't have to, and it would incriminate them. If you were to ask how many were uninsured and die every year, it's approximately 48,000, which is 4,000 people a month, 130 a day, 5 an hour, and 1 person every minute and a half is dying in this country because they're being held hostage by the health insurers. Every person that dies does not just die. They are killed by the health insurance system. They are assassinated. They are executed by the capitalist system for profit.
Wow.
And so to pretend that one man in charge of that system being executed is somehow more important than every single person every minute and a half who is being executed it's abominable.
Imagine carefully planning the execution of someone you don't even know, haven't met, someone who hasn't done a thing to you, and now he's a hero to some on the left.
The media pretends that because you
see, he's saying that he hasn't met him. He hasn't met him, but he has done something fucking to him. He has. Let's be 100, right? He has. He fucked that man over. Now was it directly? But nigga, you in charge. Somebody gotta pay.
you shoot somebody, it's somehow more unacceptable than to sign a paper denying somebody coverage and signing their death warrant. But it's murder just the same.
As sad as death is,
Like, what was
I mean,
where was he supposed to show up to the claims department? Nah, nigga, no. And then that's the thing. There ain't no claims department. They using fucking AI. Literally was denying 90% of the fucking claims. Just denying them. Most people just had to automatically do an appeal. 90%, bro. What type of sick shit are y'all on?
This country has been built on blood and death. And
you know, the president and the vice president are posing and smiling with a known murderer, Daniel Penny, who is, we know, murdered a man. Whether the legality lets him go to prison or stand go free is a completely different thing. So I would say to the president, if he would stop eating McDonald's and get out of the golf resort.
That's the dude that choked the dude out on the fucking bus. Time out, man.
We know murdered a man. Whether the legality lets him go to is, we know, murdered.
Why would he be there? So he a hero? All right, finna get into that.
A man. Whether the legality lets him go to prison or stand go free is a completely different thing. So I would say to the president, if he would stop eating McDonald's and get out of the golf resort, he could maybe ask the billionaire who's dog walking him if he could start working for healthcare for the people that elected him.
Because health is one of the most important things to being human. It's one of the things that continue to make us humane, that allow us to do all of the things that society continues to build on, all the things that make you happy, activities, whatsoever. If you are not in good health, then that basically closes the door to every other thing that you would like to do in life. And every other major first world nation, and all of the others, have universal health care.
I came down here because personally I'm going through the whole healthcare thing. I got the same back surgery as Luigi. Probably, December 24th.
And can you explain exactly what that surgery is?
It is a surgery on your lumbar. It would be, I believe that would be the L4 and 5 that I got the surgery on.
Lumbar is like the lower part of your back?
Yeah, the lumbar down at the bottom here. And also I got one in my neck.
According to Reddit posts made by Luigi, he underwent a pretty difficult spinal surgery last year for chronic back pain, specifically in the lower lumbar region, where he had a misalignment that caused him extreme pain, unable to look up, arch his back, surf, rock climb, or be intimate. The surgery, called a discectomy, typically costs between $15,000 and $50,000 without insurance. And even those who can afford it often find themselves waiting months and even years for care.
So when I got my surgery, it was a year and a half of trying to get the ability to get the surgery, and the whole time I had nerve damage. Now I have permanent nerve damage, and they're saying that a lot of it was because I had to sit around for so long. So what they gave me was like a medication. I was on pain like opiates. Now the insurance companies are saying that it's not a long-term thing. I can't sleep. I can't do anything without like medication. I'm at the point where I can't even afford to keep going with insurance. I haven't worked for 2 years since this incident. And like, I guess the reason why I'm down here is because I keep hearing, about everybody suffering from the healthcare system. And like myself, I'm about to be homeless. Like I lost everything. I was making about $114K a year, and now I'm down to nothing. When I went to the disability office and everything, I did that over a year and a half ago, and I'm still pending in the courts. I haven't had a first court date. So the whole system is designed to just take you out. Like in the next 2-3 months, I'm going to have to find a way to move. I don't have any family. So I'm going to go hang out with some friends and try to do that while I'm suing a company for what happened.
That's fucked up, yo. You can kind of hear the hurt, you know what I'm saying, and in bruh voice. It's fucked up. And I'm gonna tell you, just to be honest, it's a lot of these people too that are the ones that are okay with it until they making it like, oh, you don't just get the fuck up your whole life. But what happens when you working every day, bro, and then your back fucked up? You can't even sit still. You can't sit comfortable. You can't goddamn none of that. Then what? That was because of the life choice you made? regardless of, imagine how much money he paid out of each check to insure itself for this type of day, and when it came, they weren't there. Nobody's around. Can't get an answer. Pending. Think about that. He was making 100 and something thousand. I'm sure he was. Let's say he probably making 100,000. He probably was spending like 20 damn near on just insurance. Probably a year. Probably 10. Probably like 10, 15 a year on insurance. That shit was paid for already. Multiple times. Nigga probably never was sick. Never really went to the doctor. Never had to use this shit until he had to use this shit. Paid all that money into it. And guess what? We ain't got it. We ain't got it.
But in the meanwhile, there's no help or health care. And now I'm looking down that I won't have any medication, which means I can't go on walks, I can't sleep, I can't sit, I can't do anything comfortably, I can't even cook. So I just wanted to let you know what's going on
What's
with me.
the medication you're taking?
Oxycodone. Yeah, 10 by 325. I used to be on 5.
See, that's even worse because we know what happened with the oxy and how they put that shit out there. It's even worse. But let's be real. You didn't got the people put in a situation where they hooked on that and need it to function, and then you gonna remove it? Universal health care, y'all. Like I don't get how people sleeping on Bernie Sanders like that. And like I said, it's all well and good when you got the money now for that shit until you can't work and they draining your fucking pockets at the same time. We will see. We will see. Cause honestly, the hurting his voice, this nigga sound like he finna be the next Luigi, goddammit.
5 a day, so 50 milligrams.
Recognizing that his opiate tolerance was getting far too high, Nicholas asked his doctor to be prescribed pregabalin, an epilepsy medication that also helps with nerve pain.
But the problem with that is once you start taking it for like a month or two, once you stop taking it, the rate for like seizures as a side effect is really high, I'm being told. So no doctors even want to give that to me because I live by myself. You know, I live in Midtown and I am about to have no help whatsoever. I'm down to my last 6 days of medication, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to take my email down, we can try to help you. I don't know if you need help moving or, we have extra money and shit if you need help. I mean, it sounds like I got you, man. Yeah, well, I want to help you, man. It sounds horrible.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
After this interview, I decided to launch a GoFundMe to help Zam move, pay rent, and afford medication, which I kicked off with a $1,000 donation. I hope that collectively we can all pitch in a few bucks and help him to at least get some relief in this objectively horrible situation. He struck me as a great guy, and I'm very blessed to have the platform to help people who need it. I've put the link in the pinned comment in the description of this video. All right, let's go back to the controversial manifesto that was leaked.
Also in his backpack, according to police, a 3-page handwritten manifesto confessing to the murder of United Healthcare's CEO Brian Thompson and ranting about other health insurance bosses.
Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming.
And so whenever you read that manifesto and you noticed that parallel...
Parasites simply had it coming.
And so whenever you...
Bosses.
Frankly...
Let's read it. There, I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the indecipherable largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind on Apple, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but as has our life expectancy. Not the reality is. No, the reality is these are indecipherable. These have simply gotten too powerful and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because
These parasites simply had it coming.
And so whenever you read that manifesto and you noticed that parallel, did you resonate with the frustration that Luigi felt?
I'll be honest, yeah. I don't know if the manifesto is real or not. Like he said, you can't trust anything the NYPD says.
Yeah.
But in regards to what it said, like not being able to sleep, rolling over, like
Yeah.
there were days, I had someone who used to come and help me at where if I didn't have medication, like if it was on back order before my surgery, I would be throwing up from the pain. I couldn't, crawling to the bathroom. It was fucking terrible. And sorry. And also if
It's not the real news. You can curse all you want. As illustrated by this conversation, there's been many disputes regarding the authenticity of the alleged Luigi.
I'm gonna be real, man. I have my boy, man. He was in the military in '90, right? In Iraq. He fell out of a fucking plane, out of the helicopter, and funked his back up. And did everything they could, bro, to fight this man from getting this shit. Everything they could, to the point they took the man medicine away. I didn't even notice how really fucked up bro was. Like it's crazy for some people when you live in chronic pain, yo, these people who who are in chronic pain and have to eat medicine on a regular basis just to function. One day see them without that shit and see how they walk and stand and fucking that shit is not a good sight, yo. It's not a good sight at all. Man, I ain't gonna lie. It was damn near like his whole body was shifted. On one side was just heavier, even to the point of how he got, bro, couldn't even really talk. I'm like, sheesh, bro. So nah, man. Like I said, if this doesn't look at that, 4K a month, 4K a month, 4K, like it's crazy. And the worst part about it all is, like I said, it has the connection to just how capitalism functions in the first fucking place. Even though the prices of everything is going up around you, we ain't getting paid no more than what we was. 10, 15 years, like, pay ain't changed in like 20 years, y'all. Y'all know that, right? Like 20, 30 years. And even in the time that it has, it's barely moved. Yet, the cost of living and everything and fucking around you is went up. The hell is going on? CEOs is reaching record numbers in pay right now, in profit, growth. Companies is growing bigger and larger than they ever have, and yet the people, their pay ain't reflecting that growth. It's the same thing. These goddamn insurance companies is blowing up on your money that you've been paying their ass the whole time, and yet our health as a people ain't got no better. It's getting worse. Let's go, man. Free Luigi, yo.
Luigi Manifesto. However, the journalist who leaked it is quite reputable, so I believe it to be real. And I had many questions for him. Here's what Ken had to say.
Behold the Branch Ergonomic Chair, a symbiotic companion for the working human, with 8 points of ergonomic adjustment and lumbar support, all for a price.
I'm Ken Klippenstein. I'm an investigative reporter.
You made the choice to leak Mangione's manifesto to the public. I want to know why you made that choice.
Well, I just thought it was media paternalism at its worst to withhold this.
My fault, y'all. I need that chair, though. I just heard the lumbar. What the fuck is this? Ergonomic. What the fuck is that? Branch Furniture. Hold on. Let me just Google this real quick, and I'm going to get right back to it. Ergonomic. off his chair. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I gotta get one of these right here. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, this little chair right here is looking clutch. Oh shit, let me hit the play button.
On, I think, the dubious grounds that releasing this out of the public is going to be like some kind of code word, like in the Manchurian Candidate, where it's just going to activate something in everyone's brain and cause them to take out acts of violence against other CEOs. I mean, all this sounds very familiar to me. It reminds me of the argument that violent video games is causing shootings. I think it's just scapegoating something else because people don't want to deal with the underlying issue of why would the health insurance industry produce grievances of the sort that would cause people to find memes about this person dying funny. That's the question that people should be looking at. And to me, that is the kind of active ingredient in all of this that's driving the response that some people find distasteful. But instead of looking at that, they're just kind of wagging their finger and saying, oh, if we just take it down from everywhere. I mean, I had, internal chats from the New York Times staff leaked to me showing that they were instructed from on high above, like senior management, telling them, we need to, quote, dial down the use of Mangione's photo, his headshot in pictures. The idea being we don't want to, play into the glorification of him. And the idea that a picture of somebody is going to intrinsically just, again, cause everyone, like, it shows you how much contempt they have for the public, that they think people are zombies that are just going to see something and just act it out. And there's no critical thought that happens.
Is that their version of populism, killing CEOs?
And look, to the extent that they're justifying this, what they're doing even worse is they're tacitly encouraging copycats.
So you're saying that the CEOs and the government are scared of like a V for Vendetta final scene in Joker contagious wave of assassinations happening?
In fact, they use that word contagion. If you look at what the head of NYPD intelligence, which is a very big office, NYPD is, on the footing of a national agency, multi-billion-dollar budget. And she gave a public speech to the Atlantic Council, a think tank, in which she described this explicitly in, counter-terror terms, including the speech being expressed in support of Mangione. And so it's not just about him as an individual. They are treating this, like you said, and using the word contagion. There's this whole, law enforcement theory that it's almost like the Cold War. Or Vietnam, the idea that it's going to jump from communism will jump from one country to another and then it'll spread to another. I haven't seen any evidence for that. To date, there's no example of somebody shooting someone else in response to this. There is an example of a lot of people posting mean tweets and things, but to say that that is comparable to, murdering somebody, there's just no comparison. And so there's no evidence for it. I mean, I guess what they would say is, well, wait and see.
Yeah.
But what it says to me is that there's a lot of people in the intelligence community that don't know how to read the internet and don't understand irony and don't understand sarcasm and don't understand, shit posting. And so they take it at face value and say, wow, there's this army of V for Vendetta masks that are just going to, come out in force with pitchforks and come after us. And that really seems to be what the manner in which they're responding. It's a sort of moral panic I think we're seeing right now. And my hope is that people will look at more and more of the evidence come out, not just in the form of the manifesto, but the trial that's going to happen, and say, hey, there's much more to this story than that some guy snapped and just went crazy or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's a big conversation to be had too around the idea of violence. I think that, of course, we know shooting someone in the head or in the body, wherever he was shot, that's violence. That's, you're shooting someone. People think of fist fighting and those kind of actions. Assassinations that's violence. But they don't use that term when they think about policies that lead to people dying and healthcare and medicine prices that result in people dying, or people's claiming that effectively is a form of violence. You might not be being strangled to death, but you would have otherwise lived if it wasn't for their policies.
Yeah. And when you look at the urgency of the discussion around this, let's be frank, one person who died, again, there has been no other attempt to kill anybody anywhere else, no evidence of a copycat attack. It's hard to look at that and say there's any other reason for that than that he was a really rich, powerful person, and he's still benefiting from that status even in death, while literally tens of thousands of people die from having to ration insulin, for just one example, something that costs pennies on the dollar to manufacture. It's a disgrace. What do you even say to that? And the fact that the people in sort of the corporate media can't understand why somebody would be driven to rage over that. Whether or not you support what he did, not understand that mindset, it's like, wow, they're really out of touch. They don't get it.
Yeah, they never will get it, but it's okay. If you'd like to see our full, uncut interview with Ken, where we break down the manifesto sentence by sentence and discuss everything under the sun, go to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/channel5. As many of you know, we are totally in.
Shout out to Channel 5 for that. Shout out to Channel 5 for that. Let me just see what we're gonna do. Let me see. Yeah, man. Like I said, the prices of this shit has gotten ridiculous. Let's get our update, man. That's crazy. Where we go from here? What the hell is the name of my show? Where do we go from here? Oh shit, I ain't even name it right. I gotta get that shit together. Let me see. No, I don't want to get this. Oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Hold on, let me hit the play on this for a second while I get a view.
Man, that is a big crowd. And they are not here for me. How you guys doing? Nice vibe this year, right? After the best month we've ever had. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming out. Good to see you. I'm not going to kill any more time. Let's bring out Elon Musk. Second. Hey guys. We've got one more surprise in case this wasn't enough. I'm gonna let Elon do it. Who else is here?
Well, President Milei has a gift for me.
Javier Milei from Argentina. You guys know who that is, right? Why don't we bring him out?
Yeah. This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they got going on. Silly ass niggas. That shit look like some WWF shit, man. I'm holding up a goddamn chainsaw like ass niggas. That shit look like some WWF shit, man. My fault, hold up. Alright. Let's go.
This is not my first career. It's basically like learning a new, community, a new language.
Donald Trump is now officially the president of the United States again, and he immediately began his second term by vowing to expand the U.S. empire. At his inauguration, Trump promised to, quote, expand our territory, end quote, to expand the territory of the U.S. empire. He also vowed to forcibly take over the Panama Canal in violation of Panama's sovereignty. He fearmongered about China, falsely claiming that China supposedly controls the Panama Canal, which is not true. And he even invoked manifest destiny, which is a colonialist doctrine that was used by the U.S. colonialists in the 19th century to justify ethnically cleansing indigenous peoples and colonizing more and more land. Here's this clip from Trump's inauguration.
And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars.
This is blatant imperialism. Trump is not even hiding it. He's saying we're going to expand the U.S. empire. Now, of course, Democrats like Joe Biden and Obama, they also engaged in imperialism, carrying out wars on Libya and Syria and Yemen and Palestine. Of course, this is bipartisan, but the difference is that Trump is not even hiding it anymore. He's saying, yes, I'm an imperialist, I'm a colonialist, and I'm going to expand the territory of the U.S. empire. He's proud of it. Now, first of all, the Panama Canal is not for sale. This is part of Panama. The Panamanian sovereign government has said they're not going to give it up. It's not for sale. This narrative that China supposedly controls it is completely false, but it's part of this warmongering propaganda that Trump is going to use to try to justify escalating the new Cold War on China and to justify potential U.S. military intervention. Because Trump was asked by a journalist in a press conference if he would use military force and invade Panama and also Greenland in order to take over the Panama Canal and take over Greenland, which Trump wants to colonize and make part of the U.S. empire as well. And in the press conference, Trump refused to rule it out, indirectly threatening to invade and colonize Panama and Greenland.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country.
The Panama Canal is one of the most geostrategic trade routes on Earth, so it's obvious why Trump wants to control it. About 5% of global maritime trade passes through the canal, and Trump also wants to use it to restrict access to China, to prevent China from trading with the Western Hemisphere, especially with Latin America. And the U.S. under Trump is going to try to impose neocolonial control over Latin America, especially as Marco Rubio is going to be the head of the State Department. I'll talk about Marco Rubio a bit more in a few minutes here. But why does Trump want to colonize Greenland? Well, two main reasons. One of them was admitted openly by the U.S. government-funded propaganda outlet Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, which was created by the CIA as a U.S. government propaganda organ. They published an article letting the cat out of the bag titled, "As Russia and China Steep Up Arctic Presence, Greenland Grows in Importance for U.S." So they want to use Greenland as a base for power projection for the U.S. military in order to limit the influence of China and Russia in the Arctic, especially as climate change melts part of the Arctic. And Trump is a climate science denier. He's going to put the pedal to the metal in massively expanding fossil fuel use. He said, drill, baby, drill in his inauguration speech. So as climate change gets worse and worse and the Arctic opens up, the U.S. wants to militarize the Arctic and prevent China and Russia from accessing the region, turning it into another part of the US imperial sphere of influence. So Trump wants to use Greenland as a big military base in order to isolate China and Russia in the new Cold War. So that's one key reason. The other main reason why Trump wants to colonize Greenland is because it has potentially trillions of dollars of strategic minerals, including rare earths that are very important for modern technologies. And the US is trying to restrict China's access to many of these minerals because China plays such a central role in the supply chain for critical minerals and especially rare earths. So Trump sees Greenland as a potential very profitable opportunity for the US to do that. Reuters published a list of some of the very important natural resources that Greenland has beneath the surface that could be very profitable for US corporations. They include rare earths, graphite, copper, nickel, zinc, gold, diamonds, iron ore, titanium, vanadium, tungsten, uranium. The list goes on. This is one of the other reasons why Trump really wants to get access to control Greenland, to colonize Greenland, to exploit these very profitable natural resources. Donald Trump is also threatening BRICS, the Global South-led organization that now represents a majority of the world population. A journalist asked Donald Trump about Spain, and for some reason, Trump claimed that Spain is part of BRICS. Spain is not part of BRICS. Listen to this very bizarre clip where Trump falsely claims that Spain is part of BRICS, and then he threatens BRICS, and he says that he's going to put 100% tariffs on BRICS countries, which again represent the majority of the world population, about 55% of the global population. And Trump is threatening to put 100% tariffs on BRICS countries to prevent them from trading with the United States.
What can we expect of the countries in NATO that spend the least amount of money, like Spain, France, below the 5%?
Spain is very low. And yet, are they a BRICS nation?
What?
They're a BRICS nation, Spain. You know what a BRICS nation is? You'll figure it out. But, and if the BRICS nations want to do that, that's okay, but we're going to...
Hey. Yo, man, the look on his face, how cocky he was when he was wrong. And nigga just learned that shit like 2 seconds ago. And then came out like he an expert on it. You know what a BRICS nation is? Huh? What the fuck are you talking about? You will. Okay.
put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States. You know what the BRICS is, right? You guys know.
Brazil,
you know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. So, it's not even a threat. In fact, since I made that statement, Biden said, well, they have us over a barrel. I said, no, we have them over a barrel. And there's no way they're going to be able to do that.
This is an executive order relating to
tariffs, those countries, like Spain.
As a BRICS nation, yes. They'll have 100% tariff if they so much as even think about doing what they thought.
Can you explain how is
Which, and therefore they'll give it up immediately. So will China give it up.
Let's talk about e-rectifying or reactivating our hair follicles. iRestore makes this incredible piece of technology called the iRestore Elite device. And this has been shown to be an effective option for hair loss. It uses
Now, another country that Trump is threatening to potentially annex is Canada, and his supporters claim that this is just a joke, but Trump has repeatedly referred to Canada as the 51st state and vowed to make it part of the United States as part of his pledge to expand U.S. territory and the U.S. empire. Again, even if this is just a joke in scare quotes, the U.S. has a history of invading many countries around the world, of waging imperial wars. So rightfully, people in Canada are seeing this as a potential threat. And why would Trump be interested in this? Well, Canada has a larger landmass than the United States, again, especially with climate change getting worse and worse by people like Donald Trump massively expanding oil production. What we're going to see is much of the ice in the northern part of Canada melt. Some of this area is going to become habitable. And Canada also has trillions and trillions of dollars of natural resources, some of the largest oil reserves on Earth, and many other important natural resources that U.S. corporations can profit from. So once again, we see that Trump is threatening many countries with imperial expansionism. And especially for Latin America, Donald Trump's second term is going to be very dangerous because I already talked about how he's threatening to colonize the Panama Canal, and he's also threatening potential military intervention in Mexico. In his inauguration speech, Trump declared Mexican cartels to be so-called terrorist organizations, and he announced that he's sending U.S. troops to the southern border, preparing for potential military intervention of Mexico. The sovereign elected independent government of Mexico has repeatedly said that it would oppose a U.S. military intervention. Therefore, this would be an illegal invasion, an imperial invasion of the U.S. southern neighbor by the U.S. military. This is why foreign media outlets are referring to Trump's decisions as Trump going to war with Mexico. That's essentially what's happening here. Trump is also expanding the economic war and hybrid war on Cuba, which of course has been a target of U.S. aggression and meddling and coup attempts and a blockade for more than 60 years, ever since the people of Cuba overthrew a U.S.-backed right-wing dictator and created a revolutionary government in 1959. Well, Trump has put Cuba back on the list of so-called state sponsors of terror, which is completely nonsensical. Now, Biden was one of the worst presidents in modern history, a horrible president. He sponsored Israel's horrific war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. He expanded the proxy war in Ukraine. There are many things to criticize Biden over. One of the very, very few good things that Biden did is at the end of his administration, with just 1 week to go, he removed Cuba from this ridiculous list. Cuba has nothing to do with terrorism, but this is a completely political list. And he did it just a week before leaving office. And immediately when Trump came back in on the 20th of January, just a few hours after coming back into office, he put Cuba back on this ridiculous list. It should be emphasized that the U.S. terror list is totally bogus, totally political. It has no legitimacy. As an example of this, the former leader of South Africa, who led the struggle against apartheid, Nelson Mandela, was put on the U.S. so-called terrorism list until 2008, well after he became the leader of South Africa, because this is a political list. And during the first Cold War, Nelson Mandela was closely affiliated with the Communist Party of South Africa. He was very close to the Soviet Union, and he supported armed struggle against the racist colonial apartheid regime in order.
And let's just be real. Winnie Mandela is the one who held that shit down. Because, yeah, he was on the communist side of South Africa. And then all of a sudden, the nigga got locked up and came out a whole different fucking person. A whole different fucking person. Let's just be real. And that's why he stayed on that list for a while. He's trying to make sure the nigga wasn't just faking it. No. The nigga came back a whole different person.
To end the white supremacist apartheid regime. And because he refused to disavow armed struggle and refused to tell people to put down their arms in South Africa, he was put on the U.S. so-called terrorism list. By the way, Nelson Mandela was imprisoned by the apartheid regime for 27 years, and it was the U.S. that helped the apartheid regime in South Africa find and imprison Nelson Mandela. This was admitted by a former spy in the CIA, which played a key role in the imprisonment of Mandela. Of course, South Africa's apartheid regime was a close ally of the United States, strongly supported by the U.S. And because Nelson Mandela and many revolutionaries were sympathetic to the Soviet Union during the First Cold War, the U.S. had no problem killing them, putting them in prison, disappearing them, torturing them. And we see this history continuing today with countries like Cuba. Cuba had strongly supported the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, fighting against the racist, colonialist, white supremacist states in southern Africa. And the U.S. was on the opposite side, supporting the white supremacist colonialists. So once again, we see that Cuba is being punished by the U.S. empire for daring to challenge U.S. imperialism, for daring to challenge the global dictatorship of the U.S. empire, which wants to control every country on earth and wants to colonize foreign territory and control anything so U.S. corporations can profit and exploit all of the natural resources and labor of other countries around the world. And of course, we can also see this with Israel. Donald Trump has vowed to massively expand U.S. support for Israel. This is naturally bipartisan in the U.S. The Joe Biden administration gave billions of dollars of weapons to Israel as it was ruthlessly bombing Gaza and carrying out crimes against humanity. But for public relations reasons, for PR, the Biden administration temporarily suspended the export of certain weapons to Israel, like 2,000-pound bombs, which were being used to destroy entire neighborhoods and civilian areas in Gaza. So now that Trump is U.S. president again, what is he doing? He's going to lift all restrictions on weapons exports to Israel, giving Israel these 2,000-pound bombs. And this is according to the Israeli ambassador. And Trump is also going to reverse sanctions that were put on Israeli settlers who have carried out violent attacks against indigenous Palestinians in the illegally occupied West Bank. So once again, complete carte blanche, complete green light to Israel and Israeli colonialists to massively expand their colonization and ethnic cleansing of Palestinian territory with U.S. support 100%. And finally, this brings me to the extreme warmonger who's going to be running the State Department for Donald Trump's second administration, Marco Rubio. He was unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate to become Secretary of State in a vote of 99-0. All sitting senators voted to appoint him as the Secretary.
And that's what I'd be saying too. When you look at Marco Rubio, this is the Cuban that got a problem with Fidel. These are the Cuban. These are what they be talking about. They be like, oh, it was a large population voted for Trump. They talking about these motherfuckers right here. This is exactly what they talking about. See. The Fidel Castro story is a very interesting one that we got to get into. But by him just putting them back on a list like that, I'm going to save really going into that for another day so I can make sure I'm strategic about how I'm speaking on it. Yeah, no.
Secretary of State running U.S. foreign policy. Who is Marco Rubio? He is one of the most extreme neoconservatives, neocons, that has ever existed. He has strongly supported every single major U.S. war. And back in 2020, Marco Rubio wanted the first Trump administration to invade Venezuela to overthrow the Venezuelan government. He is as extreme of a hawk as it gets. He is the textbook definition of a war hawk. During his Senate confirmation hearing, Rubio constantly fearmongered about China, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Iran. He referred to China as the so-called biggest threat to the United States. He vowed strong support for NATO and called to expand military spending to prepare for a potential war.
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go outside. And get the Bearskin Tactical Hoodie 4.0, the 10-pocket tactical micro-fleece hoodie that blocks wind, repels rain, and regulates heat for incredible comfort, wherever you are. Because the average hoodie made these days is weak, flimsy, and has one weird kangaroo pocket in the front. And listen, you're not a kangaroo, you're a man. Thousands of men around the world already love wearing the bearskin hoodie instead.
With China and its allies.
I'm that nigga.
To try to justify U.S. meddling in Latin America and threats against countries like Venezuela, Marco Rubio has constantly claimed...
Hold up. The fucking algorithms is getting my ass today. They just sold my ass a chair and now a goddamn jacket. We gotta watch this shit, man. The algorithms is getting me today.
That Iran and Hezbollah have influence in Venezuela. This is what he claimed during his Senate hearing. And once again, he's trying to set the stage to justify a potential U.S. military intervention or invasion of Venezuela, which is what he wanted the first time.
Man, what the fuck? Nigga, that nigga said Iran and Hezbollah was linked to Venezuela, bruh. Yo, that nigga was reaching like a motherfucker, yo, with that. That nigga was reaching, yo. What ties does Iran and goddamn Hezbollah got to... What ties do they have to some fucking... Come on, man. To Venezuela, man. That was a reach.
So Latin America is going to be one of the main targets of the new Trump administration, which is openly invoking the colonialist idea of manifest destiny. There are also multiple people on Trump's team who have been invoking the colonialist Monroe Doctrine, a 200-year-old colonial doctrine, which essentially claims that Latin America is the colonial backyard, in scare quotes, of the U.S. empire. So it's pretty clear what Donald Trump's foreign policy is going to look like. He's going to focus less on Europe and especially less on Ukraine. And instead, he's going to focus the U.S. empire on expanding in the Western Hemisphere, colonizing the Panama Canal, colonizing Greenland, threatening a potential invasion of Mexico, threatening potentially even Canada, trying to overthrow the independent leftist governments in Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, staunchly supporting Israel as it wages war against its neighbors in West Asia, trying to isolate and destroy the Iranian government, trying to suffocate the Iranian economy. And the end goal of these warmongers in the Trump administration is trying to destroy China. Really, that's their goal, to destroy the Chinese economy through economic war, through tech war, through trade war, trying to isolate China politically and diplomatically. They're not in any way so-called isolationists. People who claim that Trump is an isolationist are ignoring his policies and everything that he's doing, and the people he has appointed, like neocons such as Marco Rubio or his neoconservative national security advisor, Mike Waltz. So it's going to be very important to follow what the Trump administration is doing around the world. And if you follow our work here at Geopolitical Economy Report, we will keep you up to date with the latest, most important information. I am Ben Norton, the editor-in-chief of Geopolitical Economy Report. Please like and subscribe. Please share this. I will be back soon. Thanks for joining me today.
All of this is happening, yo. Let's go. Let's see here. Just want to kind of touch a little bit of basis on what's going on and what we're going into. And then I'm going to close this out. I want to download the video, goddamn. Sure. Let me hit this link real quick. This is the last part right here I'm going to touch on today. I'm going to go back live, get a fight finna come on. I'm finna be live. I do want to touch this real quick.
Some of them have seen it before and they're still in awe just as much as they were when they saw it in a video or a post. And maybe even more so when they get on site, they get to go inside.
In the skies above the east, reports of mysterious drones.
Look, guys, there's one there, one there, one there.
Turning into thousands of posts going viral online.
Coming in one after one.
With people from coast to coast now spending a lot more time looking up and pointing their cameras into the night.
This is bizarre. There's more over there, look.
Some could be optical illusions, planes that seem closer than they are.
You can hear that one. That is definitely a plane.
But others have defied normal explanation.
What the f?
Car-sized drones operating for hours in restricted airspace and able to elude local law enforcement when they send their own drones up to give chase. In New Jersey, the Army reporting the Picatinny Arsenal has had 11 unauthorized drone incursions in the last month.
Look what's back again. Same spot as last night.
21 local mayors now demanding answers from the state.
The minute you get eyes on them, they go dark. This is something we're taking deadly seriously.
The entire month before that, it was nightly drone incursions over Langley Air Force Base.
Let's just start with current events.
Today, a congressional hearing on Capitol Hill on the national security threat drones pose.
What is going on in New Jersey?
Now let's just start right here, right? Stop it right here, because before these weren't drones. Today they just automatically drones. Okay.
We're investigating, but I don't have an answer of who's responsible for that, of one or more people that are responsible for those.
Who the fuck got a car-sized drone? Exactly, that's fucking outflanking, that's outmaneuvering the goddamn sheriff's drones. Anybody want to explain that shit? Did y'all miss that part? A car-sized drone outmaneuvered the sheriff department's drone that was giving chase. We gonna continue to call this shit. So now it's just just remember this was just a UFO conversation months prior. Months prior. All of a sudden, these same UFOs have become drones to the point it's a car-sized drone. Man, get the fuck out of here. It was just UFOs that just mysteriously was always flying around military bases. Now it's car-sized drones. Man, come on.
Drone flights.
Cap.
But for those who see them on a nightly basis,
Not a plane. That is a drone in the airspace.
the drones are a very real reminder.
Almost hear a little bit of a hum.
That our airspace,
It's a very little thermal signature.
is not as secure as we might hope.
All right, so there's a big difference between me going outside or someone else going outside that doesn't really have training and looking up, and those cops that went outside and were looking up, and then a mayor of Mine Hill Township, Sam Morris, who went outside as well, and he saw something weird. Mayor Morris, thanks so much for being with us. Can you walk us through exactly what you've seen in your skies and what's being done about it?
Sure. Of course, I was aware of this issue, but last Tuesday night, it kind of came full force into my life with a resident who I know well, lives a block from me, reported to me that there were 8 drones over our school and municipal complex, which are on the same block. So I got in my car and I went around there. And by the time I got around here, they were not overhead anymore. I went into, there's a field behind our town hall that has a lot less light pollution. It's a park. And when I went in there, I could see a series of, it was like a stationary drone. It was sitting still and 3 drones going back and forth in a north-south pattern. They would go to the north a certain distance, stop, and turn back around. Almost like somebody farming a field or, something like that. And that's what really got me a little hyper-focused on all of this because I saw it personally and videoed it personally.
So you saw it. Were you able to kind of track them? How big did they look? How fast were they moving? Any details there?
Well, they aren't, when they're doing whatever they're doing, they aren't really moving particularly fast. I can't estimate speed, but they're not like, oh man, that was rocketing across the sky. They're going very methodically with a plan. And you can see that. You can see that they aren't just whizzing around, There are people that have drones and they just fly willy-nilly, so to speak. These are very methodical in their flight path, and it looks very planned.
It looks very planned, and in certain places it is very illegal. Especially Picatinny Arsenal is very close to you. You've got Bedminster also out there in New Jersey.
Yep.
There are TFRs. Some of them are over airports, just hovering there. You'd think that if it's illegal and someone is breaking the law, the cops or some authority would be able to go out there and very quickly figure out who's doing this. Has that been the case at all?
No, there's a lot of rules on that, but I got to be honest. We got to be a little bit. After watching Robert Wheeler's testimony today, I'm kind of fed up, and I'm part of that group of mayors that authored a pair of letters on Sunday, trying to bring more focus to this, and we did. I genuinely think it's time to start harvesting drones and stop worrying about the rules. Whoever's running these drones, they're not worrying about the rules. They're using the rules against us, and that's always, it happens in a civilized society. But whatever they're doing, they don't care what the rules are. 11 drones, it's been admitted now, 11 drones have gone over Picatinny Arsenal, which is about 5 miles from here in a direct line. Those drones should have been blown out of the sky. Why are we putting up with this? Why are we putting up with this?
You're not talking about like the TFR temporary flight restriction rules. You're talking about literally just blasting them out of the sky.
They have Picatinny Arsenal is a weapons development center. Okay, it's a high-tech place. It's in a rural area, it's beautiful, but it's a high-tech place. If you're the bad guys, you want to know what's going on at Picatinny. They went into Picatinny's airspace. That's a violation of the law. It has to be. I don't have the chapter and verse of the U.S. Code, but if I did that and they came back and tracked that I put a drone over, or an average person, somebody put a drone over, we'd be in big federal trouble. I don't know why they even put up with letting them go over like that. And then my understanding, Langley and then several other bases in New Jersey, they're doing that. What I don't really understand is the testimony from the FBI today. He said, well, the FAA has rules about what we can do and how we can engage these drones. Well, what is the FAA going to come and arrest the FBI if they take care of a little business? I mean, give me a break. These things can be brought down, and I've been saying this all week. These drones have a battery life. They have to come back to the Earth at some point, and somebody's controlling them. Just follow them to where they're going. Now, I know they're saying, oh, they go dark. Well, we have high tech. We have night vision. We have tracking devices. We can track onto one of these drones in a helicopter and follow it anywhere it goes. Even if it goes dark, you can follow it. So we have extreme technology in our military. They need to go do that. We need to get to the bottom of this, because what my residents are reporting to me, and all the other mayors in all the other counties in Jersey are reporting to them, they don't feel comfortable or safe with people over their head who are not regulated. Everybody knows a plane's going to go by, everything like that. But this has gotten ridiculous. And this testimony today was horrible, horrible.
And Mr. Mayor, one question. Is there a chance that this is something from Picatinny or something that the U.S. military is testing that they may not want to share? Or have you been assured, no,
sure,
that's not the case?
The guy in my position doesn't know any of that. And unfortunately, residents think, because you're the mayor, you know everything, right? Oh, you really know. You really don't. We're really befuddled. But I can tell you, Picatinny's close enough to hear that a lot of people, Picatinny, they've been going around Picatinny looking. That was for one of the first instincts was, they're coming out of Picatinny and going back in there. And people then have said, I went and sat near Picatinny at night. I sat in the park near there. I sat on the road near there. There's no activity. These drones pop out around 5:30 and they go till 11 or midnight. They're not hiding themselves. They're out when people are out, and they're not around that military base in a volume, that anybody's picked up on.
Yeah, the lights on those drones continues to just baffle my mind. If you're being, nefarious, why would you have lights? Or you're trying to spy? You have red and green lights that are just very.
If weird. I could share with you, there was one in Mine Hill that I think it was Sunday. I think it was Thursday night of last week. A lady called me about it. It was just sitting. I don't know how far, but let's go with a quarter mile from my house. And I videoed it, but it came out grainy. But I watched it with my own eyes. Red, green, red, green, red, green. And it was sitting perfectly still. No plane. And it was, 200-300 feet up. And it just sat there. We don't know what it was doing, but it just sat there. So it's this is definitely by plan. It's just a matter of whose plan. And I think we need to get. Think we need to get our hands on a few. And if they need to get a court order to do it, the FBI needs to go get a court order to do it. But enough of this. There's enough of this for everybody.
Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. Speaking
Thank you
the
for having
truth
me.
that a lot of people want to hear. Mayor, thanks.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC.
So that's it, man. I'm gonna call it with that, family. Just wanted to touch on a few things of where we at. The expansion of the United States empire. The healthcare crisis. The findings that Doge has found. This Department of Doge. Like I told y'all, having a foreigner be in charge, yo, of a department inside of the United States smells of globalism. Just reeks of that shit. And not only just globalism, but also a serious change coming and how shit is moved forward. Do I think Trump will be the president forever? No. But my instincts tell me more than likely will be the last. At least how we view, at least the way that it's seen today. I don't think the next phase of the direction or whatever of how the government is going is as republic as those may think or claim. We got to do a show tying all of these things together biblically. I don't think there's no question of what we have seen play out. Trump took the wound to the head in front of the world. And I wonder if I could like show the Left Behind movie, if we could just play that shit, right? I just wonder if it's a way I could like show that, or maybe just some clips of it or something. I don't know, I have to figure something out. But we're going to have to cook on that. Because all of the Jason A motherfuckers was, hey, the Antichrist, Obama, they're gone. They're quiet. They're cheering. They put on cheerleader shit for the most obvious shit that their beliefs I've ever seen. The most obvious shit of their belief of the Christian faith has come to life every day, and they don't even fuck with it now. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay. Let's see. Just trying to think if I'm gonna leave it. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it be. Um, yeah, I'll end it though real quick. Let me see. I guess we can end this with a song and get up out of here. Get up off of that thing. Yeah, we'll end it with a song and then get up out of here, y'all. But like I said, man, y'all already know. Special praise to the most beautiful goddess of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEMIA, whose image is the most beautiful Whoopi Goldberg. Shout out to all my Bible builders in the building. Remember, if you are listening to this, together we are Babel. Let's build. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be back in a little bit though. I'll be back in a little bit. Let me see, let me bump my shit actually. I feel
Free for me to put it in with a nigga in my chain. Yeah. I free for me to get it with a pussy with my chain. How about I hide in a place so you can come find me? How about we meet in the morning? How about we meet in the morning? So you can come find me. How about we meet in the morning? How about we meet in the How about we pray hide and seek? I freeze you some music so you get these whips and you putting on my chain. Let me get a good grip, the rest he get splitting. I'm feeling it dripping on my face. You get on your back and you get the staff until I get hit with that highway. The way that you soak and how I control it, Moses is my name. At the spot, the flow of the water don't stop like Moses is my name. He was throwing it back, I gave it a smack, and I felt the splash like the tide can, and put it in motion. I surfed the ocean and pray for the tide change. Climbing on top of me like a clock, is where everything stopping the time change. How about I hide in a place so you can come find me? Find me. How about we meet in the morning? How about we meet in the How about we pray hide and seek? Only you know where we meet and only you know where we meet. Only you know when where we meet and boy get time. It's a place only you know. No matter where only a place where you can go where to find me. You know where you meet me every time where to find me. You know where you meet me every time where I ain't in a place that I'm going every time. I'm in a place and know the meeting in the morning. How about I hide in a place so you can come find me? How about we meet in the morning? How about we meet in the morning? How about I hide in a place so you can come find me? How about we meet in the morning? How about we meet in the How about we pray hide and seek?
Yeah. And that's my shit, yo. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. That shit right there is fuck. Y'all gonna make me do one more after that one. Fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah, that's you. I don't play them games, so I can't lose. I can't lose. Think they competition, they confused. They confused. I know love ain't fair, but playing by the rules, I don't care. My eyes said and I want you. I don't play them games, so I can't lose. I can't lose. Think they competition, they confused. They confused. I know love ain't fair, but playing by the rules, I don't care. My eyes said and I want you. Pretty, I'm repeating. Digging deep and just feeding. Chest I feel you. I make you believe. I make you believe. This affirmations while you sleep. Make believe. I change what you see. And let me penetrate your mind. I make you believe. I make you pretty, I'm repeating. This ain't make believe. I make you believe. I make you believe. The chance I feel you. This ain't make believe. No, this ain't make believe. This affirmations while you sleep. I make you believe. That's on my soul. And your beauty striking. Lightning bolt. Lightning bolt. I can't forget the fighting. What I know. I can find a diamond mine and a heart pure gold. Yeah, that's you. Yeah, that's you. Yeah, that's you. I don't play them games, so I can't lose. Think they competition, they confused. They confused. I know love ain't fair, but playing by the rules, I don't care. My eyes said and I want you. I don't play them games, so I can't lose. I can't lose. Think they competition, they confused. They confused. I know love ain't fair, but playing by the rules, I don't care. My eyes said and I want you. Pretty, I'm repeating. Digging deep and just feeding. Chest I feel you. I make you believe. I make you believe. This affirmations while you sleep. Make believe. I can change when you see. And let me penetrate your mind. I make you believe. I make you pretty, I'm repeating. This ain't make believe. Pretty, I'm repeating. I make you believe. I make you believe. The chest I feel you. This ain't make believe. No, this ain't make believe. This affirmations while you sleep. I make you believe.
Oh man, I gotta get up out of here, man. That's it. I gotta come back. I enjoyed y'all. We did it. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back in a little bit, though. I'll be back for the fight. See y'all in a little bit. Peace. That's on my soul. And some beauty shaking.